She was fired on Christmas Eve. No warning. No explanation. Just a cardboard box shoved into her hands at 4:47 p.m. and a security guard waiting to escort her out like she'd stolen something. The termination letter didn't even have a real signature, just a printed name she'd never seen before and a timestamp that guaranteed she'd have no one to appeal to until after the holiday. Brielle carries that box through falling snow, and every step feels like confirmation of what she's always suspected about herself, that she's the kind of person the world forgets on purpose. 3 years. 3 years of arriving early and staying late. 3 years of fixing other people's mistakes and pretending she didn't notice when they took credit. 3 years of birthday cakes she baked for colleagues who never remembered hers, of holiday parties where she stood in corners nursing cheap wine while everyone else laughed in circles she could never quite break into. And this is how it ends. With snow melting into cardboard and the fading glow of office windows where people celebrate a holiday she'll spend alone. The walk to her apartment takes 15 minutes. She counts each one. Counts her breaths. Counts the cracks in the sidewalk because it's easier than counting all the ways she should have seen this coming. People like her don't get second chances. They don't get fairness or justice or the courtesy of an honest conversation. They get erased between business hours and Christmas when no one's paying attention anyway. Her building looks worse in December. The cracked steps are slick with ice. The lobby light flickers like it's trying to die. Her mailbox is empty except for a flyer advertising a gym membership she can't afford now. The stairs creak under her weight as she climbs to the 3rd floor, and the sound echoes in the stairwell like an accusation. Apartment 3C. Her home for 2 years. The door doesn't hang quite straight, and the lock sticks, and she has to shove it with her hip to get it open. Inside, the air is cold enough that she can see her breath. The radiator hisses and clanks, but produces barely any heat. No tree. No lights. No decorations of any kind, because she stopped pretending years ago that the holidays were something to celebrate. Christmas is for people with families and traditions and reasons to believe in fresh starts. For people who matter enough that someone would notice if they disappeared. She sets the cardboard box on the kitchen counter. The corporate coffee mug inside mocks her with its logo, 3 years of loyalty reduced to something cheap and replaceable. The succulent she kept on her desk is dying, its leaves brown at the edges despite her careful watering. Even the plant knew better than to thrive in that place. The clock on the microwave reads 11:34 p.m. 26 minutes until Christmas. 26 minutes until she can stop pretending this day holds any magic, any meaning, any possibility of being different than every other day she's survived. She should eat, shower, change out of these work clothes that still smell like the building's recycled air and other people's perfume. Should do something to mark the transition from employed to expendable, from person with purpose to just another body taking up space. Instead, she sinks onto the couch, the sagging, second-hand thing she bought for $50 from a stranger who seemed grateful someone wanted it, and stares at the water stain on the ceiling. It's shaped like a wolf's head if you look at it right. She's spent hours studying that stain on nights when sleep won't come, tracing the imaginary ears and snout and the suggestion of teeth. Something sits wrong inside her chest tonight. Has been sitting wrong for weeks, building like pressure before a storm. A restlessness that crawls under her skin and makes her want to run, to scream, to shed this careful, quiet version of herself and become something wild and uncontained. It's been getting worse. This feeling. This heat that flares at random moments, during meetings, on the subway, late at night when she lies awake listening to sirens and her neighbors fighting through thin walls. Like her body is trying to tell her something urgent in a language she never learned to speak. She mentioned it to the company doctor at her last checkup. He'd asked clinical questions in a bored voice. Taken her temperature and blood pressure. Told her it was probably stress, probably hormones, probably nothing to worry about. Probably. But the heat is there now. Low in her belly. prickling across her shoulders and down her spine. Not painful exactly, just insistent, present. Like a warning she doesn't know how to heed. The clock ticks forward. 11:47, 11:53, 11:58. She watches the numbers change and feels nothing. No anticipation. No hope. Just the dull certainty that midnight will come and go like every other midnight, and she'll still be here, still alone, still exactly as forgettable as she's always been. Midnight. The knock comes exactly as the microwave clock switches to 12 o'clock. Not a friendly tap. Not an accidental bump. 3 deliberate strikes that seem to echo in her bones before the sound even fades. Heavy. Purposeful. Wrong in a way that makes every instinct she has start screaming. Brielle's heart slams against her ribs. Her breath catches. No one knocks on her door. Not neighbors. Not delivery drivers. Not friends, because she doesn't have any close enough to show up unannounced at midnight on Christmas. The heat in her belly surges, spreads through her limbs like wildfire. Her skin goes tight and hot and suddenly too small to contain whatever is waking up inside her. Her vision sharpens. The dim apartment becomes crisp and clear, every detail vivid, the dust motes in the air, the grain in the cheap wood of the coffee table, the individual threads in the couch cushion beneath her hand. Another knock. Same rhythm. Same weight. Patient. Inevitable. She should ignore it. Should call through the door and ask who's there. Should do any of the sensible things a woman alone does when someone comes knocking at midnight. But she's already moving. Already crossing the small space between the couch and the door like her body has decided something her mind hasn't caught up to yet. Her hand reaches for the deadbolt, and she feels herself shake, not from fear, though fear is there, but from something deeper. Something that feels like recognition before she's seen what she's recognizing. Her fingers close around the lock. Turn it. The click sounds impossibly loud in the silence. The heat peaks, crests. Her pulse pounds in her throat, her wrists, behind her eyes. The air goes thick and charged, like the moment before lightning transforms sky into fire. She opens the door. And there he is. Silas Thorne. Standing in her dingy hallway like he was conjured from her worst nightmare and her most secret hope. Tall enough that she has to tilt her head back. Broad-shouldered in a black wool coat that costs more than everything she owns combined. Dark hair falling across his forehead, touched with melting snow. And his eyes, pale gray, almost silver, fixed on her with an intensity that stops her breath in her lungs. Her boss. Her alpha. The man who runs Thorne Industries from the top floor she's never been to. The man whose presence in the building changes the air pressure, makes people straighten and lower their voices and move with the careful precision of prey animals who know a predator is near. The man she's seen exactly 4 times in 3 years, always from a distance, always in passing. The man who shouldn't know her name, shouldn't know her address, shouldn't know she exists beyond a number in payroll. The man who, according to the termination letter folded in that cardboard box, is responsible for her firing. He doesn't speak, doesn't move, just looks at her like she's the answer to a question he's been asking since the world began. Snow dusts his shoulders, gathers in his dark hair, but he doesn't brush it away. His eyes travel over her bare feet, her wrinkled work clothes, the way her whole body trembles even though she's trying desperately to stand still. The heat inside her doesn't just surge. It transforms, becomes something wild and absolute and terrifying. Her body knows him before her mind can process it. Knows the cedar and smoke scent of him, the particular timbre of his breathing, the exact frequency of his heartbeat. Her pulse shifts to match his. Her skin remembers him like a language she spoke before birth and forgot the moment she was born. This isn't attraction. This isn't fear or anger or any single emotion she can name. This is gravity. This is fate. This is the reason that heat has been building inside her for months, trying to prepare her for a moment she couldn't have imagined. "This is impossible." She whispers, and the word comes out raw. "Broken. You fired me." His jaw tightens. A muscle jumps beneath his skin. When he speaks, his voice is low and rough, threaded with something that might be pain or fury or both. "No." The word hangs between them, simple and devastating. "But we need to talk about who did." He takes one step forward. Just one. But it closes the distance between them in a way that has nothing to do with physical space. She can feel him now, not just see him, not just smell him, but feel him like he's already touching her, like invisible threads connect every part of him to every part of her. "May I come in, Brielle?" Her name in his mouth sounds like a prayer and a claiming all at once. She didn't tell him her name, didn't give him her address, didn't do anything to invite this moment that feels like destiny and disaster arriving hand in hand on her doorstep at midnight. But she steps back, opens the door wider, lets the alpha who fired her or didn't fire her, if he's telling the truth, into her cold, bare apartment where the only witness to what happens next is a dying succulent and a water stain shaped like a wolf. The door closes behind him with a soft click, and Brielle understands with sudden, absolute clarity that her life just split into before and after. That whatever happens in the next minutes or hours will remake her into someone she doesn't recognize yet. That the woman who was fired and forgotten on Christmas Eve is about to discover she was never disposable at all. She was hidden, and now she's been found. If this story has already wrapped around your heart, if you need to know what truth an alpha brings at midnight, subscribe to Cindy's Wolfheart Stories. Because here, we tell the tales that change everything. He fills her apartment in a way that has nothing to do with size. Silas Thorne stands just inside her doorway, snow melting off his coat onto the cheap linoleum, and suddenly the space she's lived in for 2 years feels like a dollhouse. Too small. Too fragile. Built for a version of herself that's already crumbling under the weight of his presence. Brielle backs up until her spine hits the kitchen counter. The cardboard box sits inches from her elbow, evidence of her disposability, proof that she means nothing. Except he's here. In her home. At midnight. Looking at her like she's the only real thing in a world of shadows. "How did you find me?" Her voice comes out steadier than she feels. "How do you even know my name?" Something flickers across his face. Not quite a smile. Not quite pain. "I've always known your name." The words land wrong. Land too heavy. She shakes her head, trying to dislodge the meaning before it takes root. "That's not an answer." "No," he agrees. "It's not." He moves deeper into the apartment, and she tracks him like prey tracks a predator, hyper-aware of every step, every shift of his weight, every breath that moves his chest. He's not threatening. Not aggressive. But there's something coiled in him, something barely restrained, like he's holding himself back from an action she can't predict. His eyes sweep the space. The sagging couch. The empty walls. The single coffee mug in the dish drainer. The complete absence of anything that suggests a life beyond mere survival. She watches him catalog her loneliness and feels shame burn hot in her throat. "You live like this." It's not a question. His voice carries something that might be anger, but it's not directed at her. Alone. Unprotected. In a building with broken locks and no security. "It's what I can afford." The defensiveness rises sharp and automatic. "Or what I could afford before you," she cuts herself off. Swallows. "Before someone decided I wasn't worth keeping." He turns to face her fully, and the impact of his complete attention nearly buckles her knees. Those pale eyes hold hers, and she can't look away even though everything in her wants to run. "I didn't fire you, Brielle." He says her name again, and again it sounds like something sacred. "I would never fire you." The letter was forged. His hands curl into fists at his sides. "Someone in my organization acted without my knowledge. Removed you from the company database. Process the termination." Made sure it happened on Christmas Eve, when I'd be traveling, when I wouldn't know until it was too late to stop it. The heat in her belly pulses. Spreads. She presses her palms flat against the counter behind her, trying to anchor herself. Why would anyone do that? To take you away from me. The words hang in the cold air between them. Impossible words. Insane words. Words that should mean nothing except they make her entire body react, pulse jumping, skin flushing, that strange recognition flaring so bright she has to close her eyes against it. I don't understand. But part of her does. Part of her is reaching for an explanation that lives somewhere beneath logic, in the place where instinct and ancient knowledge sleep. I'm nobody. I worked in records management. You're the alpha of $1 billion company. We exist in completely different worlds. No. He takes a step closer. Then another. She should move. Should maintain distance. But she's frozen, pinned by his approach and her body's traitorous response to it. We exist in the same world. We always have. You just didn't know it yet. Stop talking in riddles. Her voice shakes now. Everything shakes. If you didn't fire me, if someone else did, then who? And why? None of this makes sense. He stops 3 feet away. Close enough that she can see the silver flecks in his gray eyes. Close enough that his scent wraps around her, cedar and smoke and winter wind, and something underneath that makes her want to bare her throat. You're Omega. The word drops like a stone into still water. Ripples spreading. Changing everything. No. The denial is automatic. Desperate. I was tested. Years ago. I'm human. Just human. You're suppressed. His voice gentles, but it doesn't make the words any less devastating. Whoever raised you, wherever you came from before the city, they put a block on your nature. Chemical, probably. Something administered young enough that you'd never remember being anything else. She's shaking her head. Backing away, except there's nowhere to go, just the counter digging into her spine, and his words digging into everything she thought she knew about herself. That heat you've been feeling? He continues, relentless and careful all at once. It's your nature trying to surface. The suppressants are failing. Have been failing for months. And 3 weeks ago, during the board meeting when you brought up the quarterly reports, you walked past my office and I caught your scent for the first time. Brielle remembers that day. Remembers the way her hands shook carrying the files. The way her skin felt too tight. The way she'd had to lock herself in the bathroom afterward and splash cold water on her face until the dizzy, desperate feeling passed. You're lying. But the words sound hollow even to her own ears. I'm not. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a small envelope. Holds it out to her. Blood work. Done by an independent lab. I had them analyze a sample from your last company physical. That's illegal. I don't care. The words come out rough. Almost savage. Someone was hiding you. Suppressing you. Keeping you weak and alone and vulnerable, and I needed to know why. She doesn't take the envelope. Can't. If she takes it, if she looks at whatever proof he's offering, then everything changes. Everything she's built, this small, careful life, this identity as someone unremarkable and safe, crumbles. Why do you care? The question comes out broken. Raw. Even if I am, what you say I am, why does it matter to you? Silas closes the remaining distance between them. She's trapped now, her back against the counter, his body close enough that his heat radiates against her skin. He doesn't touch her, doesn't reach out. But his eyes hold hers with an intensity that feels more intimate than any physical contact. Because you're mine. The words resonate in her bones. Her blood. Every cell in her body responds to the claiming in his voice, and she hates it. Hates that part of her wants to lean into him, to accept this impossible thing he's offering. Hates that she's spent her whole life feeling like she doesn't belong anywhere, and now this stranger is standing in her apartment telling her she belongs to him. I'm not anyone's. She forces the words out. Forces herself to meet his eyes even though it costs her. I don't care what some blood test says. I don't care about suppressants or nature or destiny or whatever story you're telling yourself. I'm just a woman who lost her job on Christmas Eve, and you're just the man whose company threw me away. Pain flashes across his face. Real pain. It softens something in her even as she tries to hold on to her anger. I know what tonight cost you. His voice drops lower. Softer. I know what it feels like to believe you're disposable. To spend years making yourself smaller, quieter, less, because that's the only way to survive. I know, Brielle. And I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. Sorry I didn't protect you before they could hurt you. Stop. The word comes out as a whisper. Stop acting like you know me. But I do. He lifts one hand slowly, telegraphing the movement, and she could step away, but she doesn't. His fingers stop just short of her face, hovering near her cheek. I've been watching you for 3 weeks. Not in a surveillance way. Not stalking. Just aware. The way you take the stairs instead of the elevator, even when you're carrying heavy files. The way you eat lunch at your desk, because sitting in the cafeteria alone is worse than not sitting anywhere at all. The way you stay late on Thursdays to fix filing mistakes that aren't your responsibility because you can't stand seeing things out of order. Each observation lands like an arrow. Evidence that she's been seen when she thought she was invisible. That someone noticed the small, careful ways she moves through the world. 3 weeks ago, I caught your scent and everything in me woke up. His hand is still hovering, not quite touching. Every instinct I have started screaming that you were in danger. That you were hidden. That I needed to find you before someone else did. And I tried, Brielle. I've spent 3 weeks trying to identify you from scent alone in a building with 300 employees, trying to track down who you were without alerting the people who clearly wanted you to stay hidden. Then why tonight? She can barely breathe. Why show up here after they already succeeded in removing me? His jaw clenches. Because tonight is Christmas Eve. Winter solstice lunar alignment. The one night in decades when the veil between suppressed nature and true nature is thinnest. If your suppressants were going to fail completely, it would be tonight. And if certain people knew what you were, if they were tracking you the way I suspect they were, they'd make their move tonight. Fear spikes through her. Real fear that cuts through the confusion and the impossible attraction and the anger. What kind of move? The kind where an unmated, unsuppressed Omega alone on the most magically charged night of the year becomes a target for every wolf in the city who wants to claim something powerful. His eyes burn into hers. The kind where you disappear and no one notices because you've already been erased from official records. The kind where by morning, you're bonded to someone who doesn't care about your consent, and I'm left knowing I failed to protect my mate. Mate. The word detonates in her chest. She opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. No denial. No acceptance. Just a strange, strangled sound that might be the beginning of something breaking. I know this is too much. Silas finally drops his hand. Steps back slightly, giving her space even though she can see it costs him. I know I'm asking you to believe impossible things and trust a man who's essentially a stranger. But I need you to hear this, Brielle. Really hear it. She nods. Can't speak. Can only listen as her entire reality rewrites itself. You were never disposable. You were never forgotten. You were hidden deliberately, carefully, and whether that was to protect you or control you, I don't know yet. But the people who hid you lost their hold tonight. Your suppressants are failing. Your nature is surfacing. And that makes you visible in ways that put you in danger. He reaches into his coat again and pulls out a phone. Not his usual sleek smartphone, something older, simpler. He holds it out to her. This is a secure line. Only one number programmed in. Mine. If anything happens, if anyone approaches you, if you feel unsafe for even a second, you call me. I don't care what time. I don't care if you think it's nothing. You call. Brielle stares at the phone. At the olive branch. At the protection he's offering from a threat she's not sure she believes in. And if I don't take it, she asks quietly, if I tell you to leave and never come back? Pain crosses his face again, deeper this time. Then I leave. I won't force this on you. Won't force myself on you. You have a choice, Brielle. You always have a choice. But I'm asking, begging, if that's what it takes for you to let me keep you safe until we figure out who did this and why. The apartment is silent except for the hissing radiator and both of their careful breathing. Outside, snow continues to fall, blanketing the city in white. Inside, Brielle stands at a crossroads she didn't know existed until 10 minutes ago. She could send him away. Could cling to her small, lonely life and pretend tonight never happened. Could ignore the heat building in her veins and the way her body recognizes his and the terrible, seductive possibility that maybe she's not as alone as she's always believed. Or she could take the phone. Could step into the unknown with this man who claims she's his mate. Could risk everything on the chance that he's telling the truth and that somewhere in this impossible story is the belonging she's ached for her entire life. Her hand reaches out, takes the phone, feels the weight of it, heavier than it should be because it's not just plastic and circuits, it's trust and danger and the first thread of connection to something larger than herself. I'm not saying I believe you. Her voice comes out steady, determined. I'm not agreeing to anything except I'll keep the phone. And I'll listen. But if you're lying, if this is some game, I will find a way to make you regret it. Something fierce and proud flashes in Silas's eyes. I wouldn't expect anything less. He moves toward the door, and she feels the loss of his proximity like a physical ache. He pauses with his hand on the knob, looks back at her one more time. Lock this behind me. All 3 locks, not just the deadbolt. And Brielle? He waits until she meets his eyes. Merry Christmas. Then he's gone. The door closes. The apartment feels impossibly empty without him. Brielle stands frozen for long seconds before her shaking hands reach out and turn all 3 locks. The phone sits heavy in her palm. The envelope of blood work lies on the counter where he left it. And inside her chest, her heart beats a rhythm that feels less lonely than it did an hour ago. Outside her window, the snow falls faster. The city sleeps. And somewhere in the darkness, things are moving. Watching. Waiting for the Omega who's just begun to wake. She doesn't sleep that night. Just sits on the couch, phone in hand, and feels her life splitting into before and after. The woman who was fired on Christmas Eve is gone. Someone new is being born. And she's terrified of who she might become. The envelope sits on her kitchen counter all night unopened. Brielle watches it from the couch as darkness softens into the gray pre-dawn of Christmas morning. She's made coffee she can't drink. Turned on the radiator that doesn't work. Checked the locks on her door 17 times because the number feels safer than 16 or 18, though she can't explain why. The phone Silas gave her rests in her lap, dark and silent. No calls. No messages. Just the weight of a promise or a threat that she's not alone anymore. She should open the envelope. Should look at whatever proof he left behind. But opening it means accepting that everything she knows about herself might be a lie, and she's not ready for that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, she lets her mind drift backward, searching for cracks in her own history, for the places where truth might have leaked through. Her memories before age 7 are fragments, disconnected images that don't quite form a coherent story. A house with blue shutters. A woman's voice singing something low and wordless. The smell of pine trees and wood smoke. And fear. Always fear threading through everything, though she's never understood what she was afraid of. The woman who raised her, Brielle has never called her mother, not even in her own head, was distant and meticulous. Cold in a way that felt purposeful rather than natural. Every morning, she'd give Brielle a small white pill with breakfast. Vitamins, she'd said. To keep you healthy. To keep you strong. Brielle had taken them without question until she was 14 and left that house for good. The system took her after that. Foster homes that blurred together into a catalog of temporary spaces where she learned to pack light and expect nothing. Some families were kind. Most were indifferent. None of them felt like home, but then, nothing had ever felt like home. Not even the house with blue shutters, which existed in her memory more like a dream than a place she'd actually lived. She'd been tested when she entered foster care. Standard medical workup. Blood draws and physicals and a bored doctor checking boxes on forms. Everything came back normal. Unremarkable. Human. But what if those tests were wrong? What if whatever was in those white pills her guardian gave her had masked something deeper? The heat pulses in her belly again, stronger than before. It's been building since Silas left, like his presence opened a door her body has been throwing itself against for months. Her skin feels sensitive. Her sense is sharper. She can smell the coffee cooling in the pot from across the room. Not just smell it, but distinguish the bitter and sweet notes, the metallic tinge from the cheap machine, even the faint trace of the water's mineral content. That's not normal. She rises from the couch on unsteady legs and moves to the bathroom. The mirror shows her the same face she's seen every day for 26 years. Pale skin. Dark eyes. Unremarkable features that have let her move through the world unnoticed. But something in her expression has shifted. A wildness she's never seen before, lurking just beneath the surface. Her fingers tremble as she grips the sink. The heat spreads. Her vision blurs and sharpens and blurs again. And for just a moment, less than a heartbeat, she sees something else in the mirror. Something with eyes that glow faint silver and teeth too sharp and a presence too big to be contained in her small, carefully constructed life. She stumbles backward. Hits the wall. The image vanishes, replaced by her own terrified face. No. The word comes out harsh. Desperate. No, that's not real. That's not me. But her body knows better. Her body is singing with recognition, with relief, like it's been waiting her entire life for permission to become what it was always meant to be. The phone buzzes in her hand. She nearly drops it in her panic, catches it against her chest. The screen shows a single message from the only number programmed in. Are you all right? 3 words. Simple. Direct. And somehow he knows. Knows that she's standing in her bathroom at dawn on Christmas morning, unraveling at the seams, terrified of what she might be underneath the careful layers of normalcy she's built. Her thumbs hover over the screen. She should lie. Should tell him she's fine. Should maintain the distance that keeps her safe. Instead, she types, I don't know what I am. The response comes immediately, you're Brielle. Everything else is just details. Something in her chest loosens. Not much. Not enough. But a fraction of the panic recedes, replaced by a strange gratitude that someone out there is awake, aware, paying attention to whether she survives this night. Did you look at the blood work? He asks. No. Good. Don't. Not until you're ready. She stares at the words. Permission to not know. Permission to take this at her own pace. It's such a small thing, but she's spent her whole life being told what to do, where to go, how to be. No one has ever cared about whether she was ready. Why are you awake? She types. The response takes longer this time. When it comes, it's more honest than she expected, because if I sleep, I can't make sure you're safe. Brielle slides down the bathroom wall until she's sitting on the cold tile floor. The phone warm in her hands. A stranger on the other end who claims she belongs to him, who's spent the night awake watching over her from a distance. It should feel invasive. Controlling. Wrong. Instead, it feels like the first time in her life someone has chosen her. Actively, deliberately chosen to stay. Tell me something true, she types. Something that has nothing to do with mates or omegas or any of this. Just something real. She watches the 3 dots that indicate he's typing. Waits. Wonders if she's pushed too far, asked for too much. I'm afraid of losing you before I ever really have you, appears on her screen. I'm afraid that whoever hid you did it for a reason, and that reason is going to try to take you back. I'm afraid I'm going to fail at the one thing that matters most. The honesty cuts through her defenses. She can feel his fear through the words, raw and unguarded, and it makes him real in a way nothing else has. Not a distant alpha. Not a powerful boss. Just a man sitting somewhere in the city, as awake and uncertain as she is. Something true for me, she types back. I've never felt like I belonged anywhere. Every place I've ever lived, every job I've ever had, every person I've ever known, I've always been temporary. Forgettable. And I convinced myself that was fine. That I didn't need belonging. But you show up and tell me I'm not what I thought I was, and part of me is terrified. But another part. She pauses. Deletes the last sentence. Starts again. Another part of me wants it to be true. Wants there to be a reason I've always felt like a stranger in my own skin. Even if that reason is impossible. Even if it scares me. The response comes quickly. It's not impossible. And you're allowed to be scared. Fear doesn't make you weak, Brielle. It makes you smart. She almost smiles. Almost. The first hint of dawn light creeps through the bathroom window, turning the white tile golden. Christmas morning. The day is here whether she's ready for it or not. Her phone buzzes again. Can I ask you something? Yes. The house you lived in before foster care. The woman who gave you the pills. Do you remember her name? Brielle closes her eyes. Reaches back into those fragmentary memories. The woman's face is blurred in her mind, features that refuse to come into focus, no matter how hard she tries to sharpen them. But the name. Eleanor Voss, she types. At least, that's what the state record said. But I don't think she was actually related to me. The caseworkers could never find any legal guardianship papers. It was like she just had me. And when she didn't want me anymore, she surrendered me to the system. There's a long pause. Long enough that Brielle checks to make sure the message sent. When Silas responds, something in the tone has shifted. Hardened. Eleanor Voss was a known associate of the Blackwell Pack. They're a group that specializes in trafficking young shifters. Buying them from desperate families, suppressing their nature, and selling them to wealthy collectors who want shifter bloodlines without the political complications of legitimate adoption. The words land like blows. Each sentence another piece of her history rewriting itself into something darker, more calculated than she'd ever imagined. You're saying I was bought? Her fingers shake as she types. That I was merchandise? I'm saying someone wanted you hidden badly enough to pay for it. And Eleanor Voss had a reputation for doing exactly that, taking shifter children, suppressing them chemically, and raising them as human until they were old enough to be claimed or sold. Nausea rises in her throat. She presses her forehead against her knees, trying to breathe through the revelation. Every memory of that house, of that woman's cold efficiency, takes on new meaning. She wasn't being raised. She was being stored, prepared, kept in a state of ignorance until someone decided what to do with her. Why wasn't I sold? She types. Why did she give me up to foster care? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. She believes him. Believes the steel in those words, the promise of action. Whatever else Silas Thorne might be, he's not someone who makes empty threats or hollow commitments. The people who fired me, she types slowly, working through the logic. You think they're connected to whoever bought me? That they've been tracking me all along? Yes. And I think 3 weeks ago, when your suppressants started failing, they panicked. They needed you removed from my building, away from my protection, before I could identify you as my mate and claim you officially. Why does that matter? Why would me being your mate change anything? Because a claimed mate has legal protections under pack law. You can't be sold, traded, or coerced into another bond. You'd be mine in every way that matters, and anyone who tried to take you would be declaring war on my pack. The possessiveness in the words should rankle, should make her defensive. Instead, it wraps around her like armor, like the promise of safety she's never had before. I'm not property, she types, needing to say it. Needing him to understand. No, he responds immediately. You're not. You're a person with autonomy and rights and choices. Being my mate doesn't change that. It just means I'll kill anyone who tries to treat you otherwise. The viciousness in that statement should frighten her. Maybe it would frighten the woman she was yesterday. But the woman sitting on her bathroom floor at dawn, coming apart at the seams, finds it strangely comforting. The light strengthens outside. Christmas morning in full now. Somewhere in the city, families are waking up. Presents being opened. Traditions being honored. The normal, human world going about its rituals while Brielle sits in a bathroom learning that nothing about her life has ever been normal. What do I do now? She types. The question feels enormous. Impossible to answer. Right now? You rest. You eat something. You let yourself process this. And tonight, if you're willing, you come to my house. There's someone I want you to meet. Someone who can help you understand what you are and how to control it as your nature surfaces. Who? My sister. She's an Omega too. Mated. Safe. And she's been where you are now, lost and scared and convinced she was human until her truth came out. The offer settles something in Brielle. The idea of talking to another woman, someone who's survived this transition and come out whole on the other side, makes the impossible feel slightly less insurmountable. Okay, she types. Tonight. But Silas? Yes? If this is a trap, if you're lying about any of this, I will find a way to make you regret it. She can almost hear his smile in his response, I know. It's one of the things I love about you. Love. The word hangs there on her screen, casual and devastating. Too soon. Too much. Too real. She doesn't respond. Just sets the phone down and lets herself sit with the enormity of everything that's happened in the last 8 hours. The firing. The midnight visit. The revelations that her entire childhood was a lie designed to keep her suppressed and saleable. The heat in her belly has settled into a steady warmth. Not comfortable exactly, but no longer painful. Like her body is adjusting to the truth faster than her mind can follow. She hauls herself up from the bathroom floor and walks back to the kitchen. The envelope still sits there, waiting. Proof of what she is. Evidence she's not ready to face yet. Instead, she makes toast she doesn't want and coffee she won't drink and goes through the motions of a normal Christmas morning. Because if she stops moving, if she lets herself think too hard about the fact that she's not human, has never been human, was deliberately kept ignorant of her own nature for someone else's profit, she'll shatter. And she's survived too much to shatter now. The day passes in a strange, suspended way. Time moving, but nothing changing. She showers. Changes clothes. Sits on the couch and stares at the water stain on the ceiling, the wolf's head that suddenly feels less like coincidence and more like prophecy. At 3 o'clock, her phone buzzes with an address in the northern part of the city. Residential. Expensive. The kind of neighborhood where she's never belonged. Car will pick you up at 7, Silas writes. Driver's name is Marcus. He's pack. He's safe. And Brielle? Yes? Thank you for trusting me. I know it's not easy. She looks at the message for a long time. Trust. Such a small word for such an enormous leap. But what choice does she have? Stay here alone, waiting for whoever fired her to make their next move? Pretend tonight never happened and go back to a life that was never really hers? Or step forward into the unknown with a man who claims she's his mate, who's offering protection and truth and the first real answers she's had about who she is. See you at 7, she types back. Then she sits on her couch in her cold apartment on Christmas Day and waits for her life to change again. The woman who was fired on Christmas Eve is already gone. The woman who will arrive at Silas Thorne's house tonight is still being born. And somewhere between those two versions of herself, Brielle is learning what it means to stop hiding. Even when hiding has kept her alive this long. Even when the truth might destroy her. Even when every instinct she has screams that belonging to someone, being claimed by someone, means losing the fragile independence she's fought so hard to maintain. She touches the phone in her lap. Thinks about the alpha who stayed awake all night to make sure she was safe. Who sent her messages that were honest instead of perfect. who's asking her to trust him with a truth she's only beginning to understand herself. And for the first time in her 26 years, Brielle lets herself hope that maybe, just maybe, she's not as alone as she's always believed. That maybe the woman she's becoming is stronger than the girl who was hidden. That maybe being found is not the same as being caught. The clock ticks toward 7. The winter sun sets early, painting her apartment in shades of amber and gold. And Brielle stands at her window, watching the city below, and prepares to meet the part of herself she never knew existed. The wolf inside her stirs. And this time, she doesn't push it back down. She lets it wake. The car that arrives at 7 is not what she expects. Brielle had imagined something sleek and ostentatious, the kind of vehicle that announces wealth and power from 3 blocks away. Instead, a dark blue SUV pulls up to her building, practical and understated, with tinted windows that suggest privacy rather than pretension. The driver who steps out is older than she expected to. Maybe 50, with silver threading through his dark hair and kind eyes that crinkle at the corners when he sees her hesitating in the doorway. "Miss Brielle?" His voice carries a warmth that immediately eases some of her tension. "I'm Marcus. Alpha Thorne sent me to bring you home." Home. Not to his house or to the estate. Home. Like it's already decided. Like she already belongs there. She should correct him. Should establish boundaries. But the word wraps around something tender inside her chest, and she can't quite bring herself to reject it. "Just Brielle is fine," she says, locking her apartment door behind her. The phone Silas gave her sits heavy in her coat pocket. The envelope of blood work stays on her kitchen counter, still unopened. Some truths can wait a little longer. Marcus opens the back door for her, and she slides into leather seats that smell new and expensive. The interior is warm, the heating already running. Small considerations that suggest someone was thinking about her comfort before she even arrived. The drive north takes 40 minutes through Christmas evening traffic. Brielle watches the city change outside her window. Her neighborhood with its cracked sidewalks and struggling bodegas gives way to cleaner streets, then to tree-lined avenues, then finally to areas where the houses stand behind gates and privacy hedges, where wealth doesn't need to announce itself because it's simply assumed. Marcus doesn't try to fill the silence with small talk, and she's grateful for it. Her mind is too full already, churning through everything Silas told her, everything she's beginning to suspect about herself, everything that might happen when she walks into his territory and meets people who know what she is before she fully understands it herself. The heat in her belly has been building all day. Not painful, but insistent. Present. Like her body is preparing for something her mind hasn't caught up to yet. Her senses feel sharper than they did this morning. She can hear Marcus's steady heartbeat from the front seat. Can smell the faint traces of other people on his clothes pack. Her instincts whisper, though she doesn't know how she knows that. Can feel the vibration of the car's engine through the leather seat in a way that seems too vivid, too immediate. She's changing. Has been changing for months. And tonight, something about being in motion toward Silas, toward answers, toward truth, is accelerating the process. They turn onto a private road that winds through dense woods. No streetlights here. Just darkness and snow-covered trees, and the distant glow of a house that gradually comes into view. It's not a mansion. Not quite. But it's substantial stone and timber construction that looks both modern and ancient, like it's grown out of the landscape rather than been imposed upon it. Warm light spills from tall windows. Smoke rises from a chimney. Everything about it suggests permanence. Belonging. The kind of place where generations have lived and will live again. The opposite of every temporary space Brielle has ever inhabited. Marcus pulls up to the front entrance and comes around to open her door. "Alpha is waiting for you in the library," he says gently. Straight through the main hall, second door on the left. Miss Talia is already there too. Talia. His sister. The other Omega who's supposed to help her understand what's happening. Brielle nods, not trusting her voice. Steps out of the car into cold evening air that smells like pine and wood smoke and something else, something wild and electric that makes her skin prickle with awareness. The front door opens before she reaches it. Silas stands framed in warm light, and the sight of him steals her breath. He's changed out of the formal coat he wore last night. Now he's in dark jeans and a gray sweater that makes his eyes look more silver than gray, and he's somehow more devastating like this, less the distant alpha, more the man who stayed awake all night to make sure she was safe. Brielle. Her name is relief and welcome and question all at once. You came. I said I would. She climbs the steps slowly, hyper-aware of the distance closing between them. I don't break my word. No, he agrees, something fierce and proud flickering in his expression. You don't. He steps back to let her enter, and she moves past him into a space that's nothing like she imagined. The entryway is all warm wood and exposed stone, with a staircase that curves up to the second floor and hallways that branch off in multiple directions. But it's not cold or formal. There are books stacked on a side table, a pair of boots kicked off near the door, a throw blanket draped over the banister like someone forgot to put it away. Signs of life. Of people actually living here rather than just existing in a showpiece. This way. Silas's hand hovers near her lower back, not quite touching, guiding her toward the second door on the left. She can feel the heat of his palm through her coat, the careful restraint in the gesture. He wants to touch her. She can sense it in the tension of his body. But he's holding back, giving her space, letting her set the pace. The library is exactly what the word suggests, floor-to-ceiling shelves crammed with books, leather furniture arranged around a stone fireplace where flames crackle and dance. And sitting in one of the chairs, legs curled beneath her, is a woman who looks up when they enter. Talia Thorne is beautiful in an understated way. Dark hair that falls in waves past her shoulders. Warm brown eyes that assess Brielle with intelligence and something that might be compassion. She's smaller than Brielle expected, almost delicate, but there's a presence to her that suggests strength has nothing to do with size. So you're the one who's had my brother pacing the floors for 3 weeks. Talia's voice carries amusement and warmth in equal measure. She uncurls from the chair and crosses to where Brielle stands frozen in the doorway. I'm Talia. And before you ask, yes, I'm Omega. Yes, I was suppressed most of my life. And yes, I know exactly how terrifying and confusing this is. The directness is startling. Brielle finds herself relaxing fractionally. He told you everything? He tells me most things. We're close, despite his tendency toward brooding silences and dramatic midnight rescues. Talia shoots her brother a look that's equal parts affection and exasperation. Though I admit, showing up at a woman's apartment at midnight on Christmas Eve is excessive even for you. The lunar alignment, Silas starts. Yes, I know. Timing was critical. Danger was imminent. Talia waves a hand dismissively. You can stop looming now. I need to talk to Brielle, and your alpha energy is making the room feel approximately 3 sizes too small. Silas looks like he wants to argue, but after a moment, he nods. I'll be in my office. If you need anything, we'll call. Talia points toward the door. Go. Do some alpha things. Brood productively. We'll be fine. He hesitates a moment longer, his eyes finding Brielle's. Are you all right with this? She nods. Realizes she means it. There's something about Talia that feels safe. Not threatening. Not overwhelming. Just another woman who's been where she is and survived it. Silas leaves, and the room immediately feels more breathable. Talia gestures toward the chairs by the fire. Sit. Tea? Coffee? Something stronger? I find wine helps with existential crises, though technically we're supposed to be avoiding alcohol during transitions. Tea is fine. Brielle sinks into one of the leather chairs, suddenly exhausted. The day has been an endless exercise in holding herself together, and now that she's here, now that she's safe, or as safe as she can be, her body wants to collapse. Talia pours from a pot that's been kept warm by the fire. Hands Brielle a delicate cup that smells like chamomile and something sweeter. Lavender maybe. Herbs that are supposed to calm. So, Talia settles back into her own chair. What do you know so far? I'm Omega. I was suppressed. Someone bought me as a child and kept me chemically sedated, so I'd never know what I was. The words come out flat. Clinical. It's the only way she can say them without breaking. And now that I'm surfacing, people who think they own me are trying to take me back before your brother can claim me officially. Talia winces. Silas really doesn't sugarcoat things, does he? Would you prefer he had lied? No. Talia's voice softens. No, you deserve the truth. Even when it's ugly. Especially when it's ugly. She takes a sip of her own tea. But there's more to the story than just the trafficking and the danger. There's what you are beneath the suppression. What you're becoming as it fades. Brielle's hands tighten around the warm cup. What do you mean? Talia leans forward, her expression growing serious. Most Omegas are simply that, Omegas. Important to pack structure, yes. Valued, yes. But not inherently powerful beyond their ability to stabilize alpha energy and facilitate pack bonds. She pauses. But some Omegas are different. Born with gifts that go beyond biology. Old magic that runs in certain bloodlines. The heat in Brielle's belly flares. What kind of gifts? It varies. Some can sense emotions with perfect clarity. Some can heal. Some can influence pack bonds, strengthen, or sever them at will. Talia watches her carefully. And some are born with elemental affinities. Fire, water, earth, air. Rare gifts that make them valuable in ways that have nothing to do with biology and everything to do with power. Brielle's heart pounds. You think I have one of these gifts? I know you do. Talia sets down her cup. When you walked into this room, the fire in the hearth flared. Responded to you. That's not coincidence, Brielle. That's recognition. She turns to look at the fireplace. The flames dance and twist, and as she watches, they seem to lean toward her. Reaching. Responding to something in her presence. That's not possible, she whispers. 3 days ago, you thought being a wolf shifter wasn't possible. Talia's voice is gentle but firm. And yet here you are, beginning to accept that truth. This is just the next layer. The deeper magic that's been sleeping under your suppression. Brielle stands abruptly. Crosses to the fireplace. Stares into the flames that seem to dance more vigorously now that she's closer. I don't know how to control this. Don't know how to be this. You will. Talia comes to stand beside her. It takes time. Practice. Understanding. But you're not alone in learning it. I had to learn too, though my gift is different than yours. What's your gift? Empathy. Emotional reading and manipulation. Talia says it matter-of-factly. I can feel what others feel. Influence it if I'm not careful. It made my transition terrifying because suddenly I was drowning in everyone else's emotions without knowing how to shield myself. Brielle looks at her. Really looks at her. Sees the strength that comes from surviving something impossible and coming through whole. How did you learn to control it? My mate helped. Pack helped. Time helped. Talia touches her arm lightly. And you have all those things available to you too, if you're willing to accept them. I don't know if I can belong to a pack. The admission costs her. I've never belonged anywhere. Never been part of anything larger than myself. The idea of it, of being connected to that many people, of having them depend on me or expect things from me, it's overwhelming. Then don't think about the pack yet. Think about Silas. Talia's voice drops lower. I know my brother. Know he can be intense and overwhelming and far too protective. But I also know he's been alone for a long time, convinced he'd never find his mate, resigned to leading without that connection. And then 3 weeks ago, you walked past his office and everything in him woke up. The words land hard. Brielle thinks about the man who showed up at her door at midnight, who stayed awake all night to make sure she was safe, who gave her a phone and his number and permission to take things at her own pace. "I'm not ready to be anyone's mate," she says quietly. "I don't even know who I am yet. How can I belong to someone else when I don't belong to myself?" "You can't." Talia squeezes her arm. And Silas knows that. He's not asking you to bond with him tonight. He's asking for time. For the chance to prove he's worth trusting. For permission to keep you safe while you figure out who you are underneath all the lies you've been told. Brielle closes her eyes. Feels the heat of the fire on her face. Feels the deeper heat in her belly that's been building all day. Feels the truth settling into her bones whether she's ready for it or not. "There's something else," Talia says softly. "Something Silas probably didn't tell you because he doesn't want to pressure you. But you should know." Brielle opens her eyes. "What?" "There's a prophecy. Old pack lore that most people dismiss as myth." Talia turns to face her fully. It speaks of an Omega born with silver fire, hidden until the time is right, marked by loss and forged in isolation, who will either unite the fractured packs or burn them all to ash. The words hang in the air between them. Heavy. Impossible. Absurd. "That's insane," Brielle says. But her voice shakes. "Maybe." Talia watches her carefully. "Or maybe it's been waiting for you all along." "Because silver fire, Brielle? That's what Silas saw in you 3 weeks ago. That's what's been building under your suppression. That's what makes you valuable enough that someone paid to keep you hidden and is now trying desperately to reclaim you before you fully wake." Brielle backs away from the fireplace. From Talia. From words that are too big, too overwhelming, too impossible to be real. "I'm not a prophesied anything. I'm just a woman who got fired on Christmas Eve and is trying to understand why her whole life has been a lie." "You're both." Talia doesn't chase her. Just stands by the fire, patient and calm. "You're allowed to be both the woman figuring out her truth and the person destiny has been waiting for. They're not mutually exclusive." A knock sounds at the library door. Silas enters without waiting for permission, his eyes immediately finding Brielle. Assessing, making sure she's all right. "Sorry to interrupt," he says, though he doesn't sound sorry. "But there's something you both need to see." Talia frowns. "What is it?" "Signs. In the old shrine at the edge of the property." His jaw tightens. "They activated an hour ago. The elders are already gathering to witness." Brielle's heart kicks into overdrive. "Witness what?" Silas looks at her, and there's something in his expression that's part awe, part fear, part reverence. The silver flame prophecy has markers. Ancient signs that appear when the Omega awakens. 3 have been dormant for generations. He pauses. All 3 just lit up. Simultaneously. The moment you crossed onto Packland. The room spins. Brielle grips the back of the chair to steady herself. "That doesn't mean anything. Could be coincidence." "It's not." Talia's voice is quiet. Certain. "The signs don't lie, Brielle. They've been waiting. And now they're awake because you are." Silas crosses to her. Doesn't touch, but stands close enough that she can feel his warmth. His presence. "You don't have to come. Don't have to face the elders or acknowledge any of this until you're ready. But if you want to see, if you want to know what you're capable of, I'll be with you every step." She looks up at him. At this alpha who's offering her protection and truth and the space to decide for herself what she wants to be. Then she looks at Talia, who's watching with compassion and understanding. Then she looks at her own hands. Ordinary hands that might hold extraordinary power. Hands that might belong to the woman in an ancient prophecy. Or hands that might belong to someone who simply wants to understand her own truth. "Show me," she says. Her voice doesn't shake. "Show me these signs." Silas nods once. Decisive. "Then we go together." He offers his arm. She takes it. And together they walk out of the library, through the warm house, toward the cold winter night where ancient markers are waking. Where destiny might be waiting. or where a woman named Brielle is simply taking the next step in understanding who she was always meant to be. Either way, she's not turning back. Not anymore. The silver flame inside her stirs. And for the first time, she doesn't try to push it down. She lets it rise. The shrine sits at the eastern edge of the property, deep enough into the woods that the house lights have faded behind them. Brielle walks between Silas and Talia along a path that's been cleared of snow but still crunches beneath their boots. The trees press close on either side, pine and birch, and something older, gnarled and twisted in ways that suggest these woods remember things the modern world has forgotten. The cold should bite harder, should seep through her coat and make her shiver. But the heat inside her has spread, wrapping her in warmth that feels increasingly less human. Her senses are fully awake now. She can hear small creatures moving through underbrush, can smell the mineral tang of stone and earth beneath the snow, can feel the pulse of the land itself, like the ground has a heartbeat that's syncing with her own. The shrine is older than the pack, Silas says quietly. His hand rests at the small of her back now, a point of contact she hasn't pulled away from. No one knows who built it or when. But it's been here longer than any living memory. Longer than written records. The stones predate even the oldest pack histories. What was it used for? Brielle's voice sounds strange to her own ears. Steadier than she feels. Prophecies. Visions. Moments when the old magic needed to speak. Talia walks on her other side, close enough that their arms brush. A silent offer of support. The elders maintain it out of tradition more than belief. Most of them think the old ways are superstition. Pretty stories we tell ourselves about our origins. But not you. It's not a question. Not me, Talia agrees. I've felt the magic in those stones. Felt it respond when true prophecy is spoken. Most people can't sense it. But Omegas with gifts? We feel it like pressure against our skin. The trees open into a clearing. Brielle stops so abruptly that Silas nearly runs into her. The shrine stands at the center of the space, a ring of standing stones, each one taller than a man, arranged in a perfect circle. But it's not the stones themselves that steal her breath. It's what's happening to them. Light. Silver light, bright enough to cast shadows, pouring from carved symbols on 3 of the stones. The symbols are elaborate, intricate, clearly ancient. They pulse with luminescence that ebbs and flows like breathing. Like the stones themselves are alive and responding to something in the air. A group of people stands at the edge of the circle. Mostly older men and women, dressed in formal clothing that suggests this gathering was organized quickly. They're watching the stones with expressions ranging from awe to fear to disbelief. The elders, Silas murmurs. And some of the senior pack members. Word travels fast when the impossible happens. One of the elders, a woman with white hair and sharp eyes, turns as they approach. Her gaze sweeps over Silas and Talia, then locks onto Brielle with an intensity that makes her want to step back. So this is her. The woman's voice carries authority. Age. The weight of someone who's seen too much to be easily impressed. The one who woke the markers. This is Brielle. Silas's hand presses more firmly against her back. A silent reminder that she's not alone. And yes, the markers activated when she arrived. Correlation isn't causation, Alpha. A man steps forward, younger than the others, maybe 40, with dark hair and harder eyes. These stones have been dormant for a century. Forgive me if I don't immediately accept that some random woman from the city is the fulfillment of an old myth. The dismissal in his tone raises Brielle's hackles. She's spent her whole life being dismissed, being overlooked, being treated as less than. And something about this moment, standing here with ancient stones blazing behind her and strangers judging her worth, makes the heat in her belly surge into something sharper. Then how do you explain it, Counselor Vex? Talia's voice cuts through the tension. The markers have been cold stone for generations. They light only in the presence of the prophesied Omega. That's not superstition. That's documented pack history. Documented by whom? Vex's eyes narrow. Old stories written by people who believed in moon magic and blood bonds? We're a modern pack now. We don't make decisions based on glowing rocks and pretty prophecies. We also don't ignore signs when they appear. The white-haired woman, clearly someone with significant authority, steps between them. I am Elder Mirren. I've served this pack for 60 years, and I've never seen the markers active. Not once. Not even when we've brought powerful Omegas here to test the old tales. She turns to Brielle. Yet you arrive, and they wake. That means something. It means she's standing near 3 rocks that happen to be glowing. Vex crosses his arms. It doesn't mean she's the Silver Flame. It doesn't mean she's anything except a convenient story the Alpha wants to believe, so he can justify claiming a mate he barely knows. The accusation hangs in the cold air. Brielle feels Silas tense beside her, feels the surge of alpha energy that makes the air pressure shift. Dangerous. The kind of response that ends in violence. She steps forward before he can respond. Away from his protective presence. Toward the judgment and skepticism waiting in the faces of the people gathered here. You're right, she says clearly. I'm not from your pack. I don't know your traditions or your history or what any of these symbols mean. She gestures at the glowing stones. 3 days ago, I didn't even know I was a shifter. I thought I was human. Ordinary. Disposable enough to fire on Christmas Eve without explanation. Some of the elders shift uncomfortably. Good. Let them feel the weight of how she's been treated. But I'm here now. These stones are glowing. And whether that makes me the fulfillment of your prophecy or just someone who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, I don't know. She holds Vex's gaze. What I do know is that people tried to hide me, suppress me, keep me ignorant of what I am. And I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter. Like my truth is something to be feared or controlled or dismissed. The silver light from the stones brightens. Pulses. Responds to the emotion in her voice. Elder Mirren's eyes widen. You feel it, don't you? The connection to the markers. I feel something. Brielle's hands shake. She clenches them into fists. Heat. Pressure. Like something inside me recognizes something inside those stones. But I don't know what it means. Don't know how to control it. Don't know if I even want it. The Silver Flame prophecy speaks of an Omega who will unite or destroy. Another elder says, an old man with kind eyes, who will burn away the corruption in the packs or consume us all in cleansing fire. That kind of power is exactly why she needs to be removed from pack lands. Vex interrupts. His voice drops lower. More dangerous. If she's truly the Silver Flame, then she's a threat. An unstable element that could destabilize everything we've built. The prophecy doesn't promise salvation, Elder Thorn. It promises fire. And fire consumes. She's not a threat. Silas moves to stand beside Brielle. Not in front of her. Not shielding her. Beside her. Equal. She's my mate. She's under my protection. And anyone who tries to remove her from my lands will answer to me. The challenge in his voice is unmistakable. Several of the elders step back. But Vex doesn't flinch. Your mate. Vex's smile doesn't reach his eyes. You haven't claimed her. Haven't bonded her. She's not Pack, Alpha. She's an outsider who activated some old markers, and now you're convinced she's destined for you. But destiny isn't law. And until she's properly claimed and integrated, she has no protection under Pack authority. The words land like blows. Brielle feels the truth in them. She's not Pack, not officially, not in any way that matters to these people. She's just a woman standing in the cold while strangers argue about whether she's valuable or dangerous. The claiming can happen tonight. An elder she hasn't heard speak yet, a woman with silver-streaked hair and calculating eyes, steps forward. If she's truly his mate, if this is genuine and not just convenient timing, then let them bond before witnesses. Let the Pack see the connection. Then she'll have full protection, and we can address what her emergence means for our security. Silas's hand finds Brielle's. Squeezes. No. She's not ready for a claiming ceremony. She needs time. We don't have time. Vex gestures at the glowing stones. Word of this will spread. Other packs will hear that the silver flame has awakened on Thornlands. They'll come looking. Some to ally. Some to claim her for themselves. Some to eliminate the threat before it grows. Every hour she remains unclaimed is an hour she's vulnerable. Then I'll protect her. Silas's voice drops to something barely human. Alpha authority rolling through the words. Claimed or not, she's mine. And I will kill anyone who tries to take her. Will you? Vex takes a step forward. Another. Even if protecting her means war with packs who see her as a threat? Even if it means splitting this pack between those who believe the prophecy and those who think it's dangerous superstition? Even if it costs us alliances and trade agreements and the peace we've built over decades? The question hangs heavy. Brielle can see the calculation in the elders' faces. See them weighing her value against stability. Her truth against their comfort. And suddenly she's back in that office building. Being handed a cardboard box and told she's disposable. Being erased because keeping her was inconvenient. Stop. Her voice cuts through the argument. Just stop. Everyone turns to look at her. The clearing falls silent except for the whisper of wind through pine branches and the steady pulse of light from the ancient stones. I won't be claimed tonight or any night until I choose it. She looks at Silas. Sees the conflict in his eyes, the desperate need to protect her warring with his respect for her autonomy. I appreciate what you're offering. The protection. The belonging. But I won't trade one form of being owned for another, even if the cage is prettier. Pain flashes across his face, but he nods. You're right. I'm sorry. She turns to the gathered elders. To Vex with his calculating eyes and Mirren with her ancient wisdom and all the others watching with varying degrees of judgment. I don't know if I'm your prophesied Omega. Don't know if I'm going to unite you or destroy you. But I know I'm tired of being treated like a thing instead of a person. Like something to be controlled or claimed or eliminated. The silver light intensifies. The stones respond to her rising anger, her frustration, her absolute refusal to be made small again. So here's what's going to happen. Her voice doesn't shake now. Doesn't waver. I'm going to figure out what I am. What these gifts mean. How to control this fire I can feel building inside me. And I'm going to do it on my terms, at my pace, with or without your approval. And if you lose control? Vex challenges. If that fire you're feeling decides to burn, who protects the pack then? I will. Talia steps forward. Positions herself beside Brielle. I'll help her learn control. Help her understand her gifts. And I'll stand between her and anyone who tries to hurt her before she's had the chance to prove herself. As will I. Silas's voice is steel and promise. She stays on my lands. Under my protection. Unbonded, unclaimed, but absolutely untouchable. And anyone who has a problem with that can challenge me for Alpha. The declaration silences the clearing. Challenging for Alpha means combat. Means blood. Means risking everything. No one speaks. Elder Mirren finally breaks the silence. The council will need to discuss this. What it means for pack security. What provisions need to be made. Her eyes find Brielle's. But child? Those stones are glowing for a reason. You may not understand it yet. May not want the responsibility. But destiny doesn't wait for readiness. It simply is. Then destiny can wait until I decide what I want it to be. Brielle holds the old woman's gaze. Because I'm done letting other people write my story. She turns away from the shrine. From the glowing markers. From the gathered elders and their judgment. Walks back toward the path that leads to Silas's house with her head high and her hands steady even though everything inside her is screaming. Behind her, she hears Silas exchanging low, tense words with the council. Hears Talia's voice, sharp and protective. Hears the murmur of the others as they process what just happened. She doesn't stop. Doesn't look back. Just keeps walking through the dark woods toward a house that might be home, or might be another cage, and she won't know which until she's strong enough to break free if she needs to. The heat in her belly settles. Quiets. Like her body approves of what she just did. Of standing up. Of refusing to be claimed or controlled. By the time she reaches the house, her hands are glowing faintly silver. She stares at them in the darkness. At the impossible light emanating from her own skin. At the evidence of power she didn't ask for and doesn't know how to use. The front door opens. Silas steps out alone. His eyes find the glow of her hands and something like pain crosses his face. "I'm sorry," he says quietly. "For pushing. For letting them push. You were right to refuse." Were they right too? She holds up her glowing hands. "Am I dangerous? Am I going to lose control and hurt people?" "I don't know." The honesty costs him. She can see it. "But I meant what I said. I'll protect you while you figure it out. No matter what it costs." "Why?" The question breaks on the last syllable. Why would you risk everything for someone you barely know? He crosses the space between them. Stops close enough that she can feel his warmth. Close enough that his scent wraps around her, cedar and smoke and safety. "Because when I saw you 3 weeks ago, when I caught your scent for the first time, everything in me recognized you." His voice is raw. Unguarded. Not as property. Not as destiny. As mine. As the person I've been waiting for without knowing I was waiting. And I don't care if that's too much, if it's too fast, if it makes me sound insane. It's the truth. Brielle looks up at him. At this alpha who's offering her everything and asking for nothing. Who stood beside her instead of in front of her. Who let her refuse him in front of his entire council and didn't flinch. "I'm not ready to be yours," she whispers. "I know. I might never be ready. I know that too. And you'll still protect me? Even if I walk away tomorrow." His eyes hold hers. Silver in the darkness. Steady and sure. "Even then. Because you deserve protection regardless of whether you choose me. You deserve safety. Truth. Time to become who you're meant to be without someone forcing you into a shape that serves them." The words break something open inside her. Something that's been locked down since she was 7 years old and learned that love was conditional. That belonging had a price. That she was only valuable as long as she stayed small and quiet and convenient. She doesn't kiss him. Doesn't fall into his arms. Doesn't surrender to the heat between them. But she takes his hand. Lets him lead her back into the house. Lets herself be led for the first time, not because she has no choice, but because she's choosing to trust. Even if just for tonight. Even if tomorrow she regrets it. Even if the silver fire inside her burns everything down. Behind them, the shrine continues to glow. The ancient markers bearing witness to an Omega who refused to be claimed. Who refused to be convenient. Who stood in the cold and told destiny it could wait. And the stones pulse brighter, as if in approval. As if the prophecy always knew she'd be the kind of woman who makes her own fate. Who burns on her own terms. Who belongs to no one but herself. The silver flame awakens. And the world will have to learn to fear it. Or love it. But never, ever control it. The guest room Silas shows her to is nothing like she expected. It's not ostentatious. Not trying to impress. Just a comfortable space with a large bed covered in soft quilts, a window that overlooks the dark woods, and a fireplace where flames have already been lit. There's a bathroom attached, stocked with toiletries that suggest someone thought about what she might need. Clean towels. A robe hanging on the back of the door. Small considerations that speak of care rather than obligation. "Everything you need should be here," Silas says from the doorway. He hasn't crossed the threshold. Hasn't invaded her space. "But if you want anything else, just ask. There's a phone on the nightstand that connects directly to my office." Brielle sets down the small bag Marcus retrieved from her apartment, a change of clothes, basic necessities, the things she grabbed in a daze while trying to process that she was staying here, in this house, with people who claim she's prophesied. "Thank you." He nods. Hesitates. About what happened at the shrine. You don't need to apologize again. She turns to face him fully. You stood beside me, not in front of me. You let me speak for myself even when it made things harder. That matters. Something in his expression softens. I won't let them pressure you into bonding. Won't let anyone treat you like you're a problem to be solved. You have my word. Even if it costs you politically? Even if the council pushes back? Even then. No hesitation. No doubt. You're more important than politics. The certainty in his voice does something to her chest. Makes it tight and warm and terrifying all at once. She's not used to being anyone's priority. Not used to mattering beyond what she can provide or how convenient she is to keep around. Get some rest, he says gently. Tomorrow we can talk about what you want to do next. How much you want to learn about your gifts. Whether you want to stay here or if you'd prefer somewhere else. All of it is your choice. He starts to turn away. Silas. He stops. Looks back. Stay. The word comes out before she can second guess it. Not in here. Not like that. But don't go far. I don't want to be alone tonight. Understanding crosses his face. Not triumph. Not possession. Just quiet acknowledgement of what she's asking for, proximity without pressure. Presence without expectation. I'll be right across the hall, he says. Door open. If you need anything, if you get scared or the heat gets worse, or you just want company, you call for me. I'll hear you. She nods. Watches him leave. Listens to his footsteps cross the hallway and the soft sound of his door opening but not closing. True to his word. Present but not intrusive. Brielle showers in water that's actually hot, not the lukewarm dribble her apartment building provides. Washes away the day, the fear and confusion, and the weight of ancient stones glowing in recognition of something inside her she doesn't understand yet. Puts on the sleep clothes she packed, simple cotton that feels too thin, too vulnerable, after everything that's happened. She should be exhausted. Should fall into that comfortable bed and sleep for hours. But her mind won't quiet. Keeps circling back to the shrine. To Vex's accusations. To the way those stones responded to her anger as if her emotions were fuel for something larger. The fire in the bedroom hearth crackles and pops. She sits on the floor in front of it, close enough to feel the heat on her face, and watches the flames dance. They move differently than they should. Lean toward her. Flicker in patterns that seem almost deliberate. You're not supposed to do that, she whispers to the fire. You're just supposed to burn. But the flames curl higher. Brighter. Responding to her voice or her presence or the strange connection she can feel building between herself and the element that's apparently tied to her bloodline. A soft knock sounds at her door. Brielle? You all right? Silas. Checking on her. Keeping his promise to stay close. I'm fine, she calls back. Then, because that's not quite true, the fire is acting strange. She hears his footsteps. Feels his presence before he appears in the doorway, barefoot and wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that makes him look less like an alpha and more like a man who was trying to sleep and couldn't. His eyes go to the fireplace. To the flames that are definitely not behaving like normal fire. How long has it been doing that? Since I sat down. She hugs her knees to her chest. I'm not trying to control it. I don't even know how. But it keeps responding like it knows me. Silas crosses the room slowly. Sits on the floor beside her, close, but not touching, respecting the boundary she hasn't explicitly drawn, but that he seems to sense anyway. Elemental affinity doesn't require conscious control. Especially not at first. Your presence alone is enough to influence it. That's terrifying. It's also beautiful. He watches the flames with something like reverence. Do you know how rare this is? Fire omegas are documented in the oldest pack histories, but no one's seen one in living memory. Most people think they're extinct. Or were never real to begin with. Maybe they had the right idea. Brielle rests her chin on her knees. Staying hidden. Staying safe. Is that what you want? To hide? The question hangs between them. Simple. Impossible. I don't know what I want. The admission costs her. 3 days ago, I wanted job security and enough money to move to a better apartment. Small things. Achievable things. Now I'm supposed to want, what? To embrace being some prophesied omega who might unite or destroy your world. To accept that I have power I don't understand and can't control. To believe that destiny has been waiting for me when I've spent my whole life being forgettable. You were never forgettable. His voice is quiet, but absolute. You were hidden. There's a difference. She turns to look at him. At this man who keeps saying impossible things with such certainty. How can you be so sure? You don't actually know me. Don't know if I'm kind or cruel or brave or cowardly. You just know I'm your mate because of biology and prophecy and whatever cosmic joke decided we should be bound together. I know you refuse to be claimed tonight even though it would have been easier. He meets her eyes. I know you stood up to a council of elders who tried to make you feel small. I know you take the stairs at work because you don't like feeling trapped in elevators. I know you fix other people's mistakes even when you get no credit because you can't stand seeing things wrong. I know you eat lunch alone because loneliness feels safer than trying to belong somewhere and being rejected. Each observation lands like a touch. Evidence that he's been paying attention in ways that have nothing to do with destiny and everything to do with genuine interest in who she is. That's not enough to base a lifetime bond on, she whispers. No, he agrees. It's not. That's why I'm not asking you to bond with me. I'm asking you to let me know you. Really know you. Not as my mate or as the silver flame or as anything except Brielle. The woman who's been surviving impossible things her whole life and is still standing. The fire flares. Responds to the emotion building in her chest, something warm and dangerous and too close to hope. What if I'm not what you think I am? The fear slips out before she can stop it. What if you get to know me and discover I'm just ordinary, broken? Not worth the risk you're taking. Silas shifts closer. Still not touching, but near enough that she can feel his warmth. Then I'll know an ordinary, broken woman who's still worth everything to me. Because mate bonds don't work like that, Brielle. They don't fade when you discover your partner's flaws. They deepen. They strengthen with truth, not despite it. How do you know? You've never had a mate before. No, but I've watched my sister with hers. Watched my parents before they died. Watched other bonded pairs in the pack. His voice softens. Real bonds aren't about perfection. They're about choosing each other even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. She wants to believe him. Wants to trust that this impossible thing between them could be real and lasting and safe. But trust is a muscle she's never exercised. A risk she's never been able to afford. Tell me something, she says quietly. Something true. Something that makes you vulnerable. He's silent for a long moment. The fire crackles. Outside, wind moves through the trees. I'm terrified I'm going to fail you, he finally says. That I'll move too fast or too slow. Push too hard or not hard enough. That you'll wake up one morning and realize you'd be safer anywhere else, and I'll have to let you go even though it will destroy me. He pauses. I've been alone a long time, Brielle. Built walls. Convinced myself I didn't need connection because wanting it and not having it hurt too much. And then you walked past my office and every wall I built shattered. Now I'm standing in the rubble trying to figure out how to be what you need when I'm not sure I remember how to be vulnerable with another person. The raw honesty in his words breaks through her defenses. This isn't an alpha making declarations. This is a man admitting he's as scared and uncertain as she is. I don't know how to be vulnerable either, she admits. Don't know how to let someone in without immediately preparing for them to leave. Every person I've ever trusted has either abandoned me or proven they were never trustworthy to begin with. And now you're asking me to trust you with not just my safety but my truth, my power, my entire future. That's enormous, Silas. That's more than I know how to give. Then don't give it all at once. He finally reaches out slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away. His hand covers hers where it rests on her knee. The contact is electric. Her whole body responds to the touch, heat flaring not just in her belly, but everywhere his skin meets hers. Start small. Trust me with tonight. With this conversation. With the truth of how scared you are. And tomorrow we'll see if you can trust me with a little bit more. His hand is warm. Calloused. Steady. She could pull away. Could maintain the distance that's kept her safe her whole life. Instead, she turns her hand over. Laces her fingers through his. Feels the rightness of it settle into her bones even as her mind screams warnings about vulnerability and risk and the danger of wanting something this badly. I'm terrified, she whispers. Of the fire. Of the prophecy. Of wanting this, wanting you, and having it ripped away the moment I let myself believe it could be real. I'm terrified too. His thumb traces circles on the back of her hand. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And I will prove to you, day after day, that some people stay. The fire burns higher. Brighter. Responding to the connection building between them. And Brielle watches the flames and feels something in her chest crack open. Not breaking, but blooming. Like something that's been locked down her entire life is finally being given permission to grow. They sit like that for a long time. Hands linked. Fire dancing. The house quiet around them except for the settling of old wood and the whisper of wind through eaves. Tell me about your sister, Brielle finally says. About how she learned to control her gift. And he does. Tells her about Talia's emergence, about the overwhelming flood of other people's emotions, about the months it took her to learn shielding and boundaries. About her mate, who helped anchor her when the empathy threatened to drown her. About the pack members who supported her even when they didn't fully understand. He tells her stories that make the impossible feel slightly less insurmountable. That suggests she might not have to figure this out alone. She wants to help you, he says. Genuinely wants it. Not because of prophecy or politics, but because she remembers what it was like to wake up to power she didn't understand. She sees herself in you. Will you tell her something for me? Brielle watches the fire. Watches the way it moves in time with her breathing now, sink to her in ways that should be frightening, but somehow aren't. Anything. Tell her thank you. For standing with me tonight at the shrine. She didn't have to do that. She'll say she did. Silas squeezes her hand gently. Family stands together. And you're family now, whether you're ready to accept that or not. Family. The word echoes in her chest. She's never had family. Never had people who chose to stand with her just because. The concept is foreign and seductive and terrifying. I should try to sleep, she says, though she doesn't move. Doesn't release his hand. You should, he agrees. Also not moving. They sit in comfortable silence for another few minutes. Then Brielle forces herself to let go of his hand, to stand on shaky legs, to create physical distance even though every part of her wants to close it again. Good night, Silas. He rises too. Looks at her with eyes that hold too much emotion to name. Good night, Brielle. Sleep well. I'll be right across the hall if you need me. He leaves. She hears him cross his room. Hears him settle on what must be a chair rather than his bed, positioning himself where he can hear her if she calls. Keeping his promise. Staying close. Brielle climbs into the bed that's more comfortable than anything she's ever slept on and pulls the quilts up to her chin. The fire continues to burn, responding to her presence even as she tries to relax. And for the first time in longer than she can remember, she doesn't feel completely alone. Scared, yes. Overwhelmed, absolutely. But not alone. Somewhere in the house, Silas is awake and watching over her. Talia is probably still up, maybe working on ways to help her learn control. Even Marcus, the kind driver, is somewhere on the property, part of this pack that's offering her protection she never asked for but desperately needs. She closes her eyes. Lets herself imagine, just for a moment, what it might be like to belong here. To have people who don't leave. Who stand with her through impossible things. The silver flame inside her pulses. Settles. Recognizes safety the way it recognized the ancient stones. and Brielle sleeps. For the first time in 3 days, she sleeps deeply and without fear, dreaming of fire that doesn't burn, of hands that hold instead of hurt, of belonging that doesn't demand she make herself small. And when she wakes in the dark hours before dawn to find shadows moving outside her window, when panic flares and she calls out his name, Silas is there in seconds, in her doorway with eyes that glow faint gold in the darkness, with protective energy rolling off him in waves. "What's wrong?" "I thought I saw," she stops. The shadows are gone. Were they ever there? Or just her fear manifesting in the unfamiliar darkness? He doesn't dismiss her concern, doesn't tell her she imagined it. Instead, he moves to the window and looks out into the night with the focus of someone who takes threats seriously. "I don't see anything now, but I'll have Marcus do a patrol." He pulls out his phone, sends a quick message. He'll check the perimeter, make sure we're secure. "I'm sorry. I might have imagined it. Or you might not have." He pockets his phone. "Your instincts are waking up along with your power. If something felt wrong, I believe you." The simple acceptance of her fear, the lack of dismissal or condescension, makes her eyes sting. "Do you want me to stay?" he asks quietly. "I can sit in the chair. Keep watch. Let you sleep knowing someone's here." She should say no. Should maintain boundaries. Should prove she can handle this alone. "Yes," she whispers instead. "Please." He moves the armchair from the corner to a position between the bed and the window, settles into it with the fluid grace of someone comfortable in his own body. And he watches the darkness while she burrows back under the quilts, and his presence is a solid thing between her and whatever might be out there. She sleeps again, deeper this time, knowing that if danger comes, she won't face it alone. Knowing that for the first time in her life, someone is standing guard. Not because they have to, because they choose to. And in the morning, she'll wake to find him still there, head tilted back against the chair, asleep but positioned where he can still see both her and the window. Keeping his promise even in exhaustion. Proving in small actions more than grand declarations that maybe some people really do stay. Morning comes with weak winter sunlight and the smell of coffee. Brielle wakes to find Silas gone from the chair, but a note left on the nightstand in bold, masculine handwriting had to handle pack business. "Talia will bring you breakfast. M is still patrolling, no signs of intrusion. You're safe. S." She reads it twice. Lets the reassurance settle into her bones. Then she rises and finds clean clothes laid out on the dresser. Not hers, probably Talia's, but close enough to her size. Jeans and a soft sweater that smells like lavender and something wilder underneath. By the time she's dressed, a knock sounds at her door. "It's me," Talia calls. "I come bearing sustenance and gossip." Mostly sustenance. Brielle opens the door to find Silas's sister holding a tray laden with more food than one person could possibly eat. Eggs, toast, fruit, bacon, coffee that smells like it was brewed by someone who actually cares about coffee. "You didn't have to do this," Brielle says, but she's already salivating. She didn't eat yesterday. Too much chaos. Too much fear. Her body is making its displeasure known now. "I absolutely did." Talia sweeps into the room and sets the tray on the small table by the window. "You're under enough stress without adding hunger to the mix. Eat. I'll talk." Brielle sits and starts eating while Talia settles across from her, curling into the chair like a cat finding the perfect sunbeam. So Talia begins. "The council met last night after you left the shrine. Argued for 3 hours about what your presence means and what they should do about it. And?" Brielle forces herself to swallow, to keep eating even though anxiety is killing her appetite. "And they're divided. Elder Mirren and about half the council think you should be protected, trained, given time to grow into your power. The other half, led by Counselor Vex, think you're too dangerous to keep on pack lands." Talia's expression darkens. "They're pushing for Silas to send you away. Somewhere isolated. Somewhere you can't be a threat to pack stability." The eggs turn to ash in her mouth. Send me away. Which he won't do. He made that very clear. Talia leans forward. But Brielle, you need to understand what you're up against. Vex isn't just worried about prophecy or power. He's been angling for alpha position for years. If he can prove Silas is compromised, that he's putting his mate's interests above pack safety, he can call for a leadership challenge. Then maybe Silas should send me away. The words hurt coming out. I don't want to be the reason he loses his position. Stop. Talia's voice cut sharp. That's exactly what they want. They want you to feel like a burden. Like you're causing problems just by existing. Don't give them that power. But I am causing problems. I showed up and 3 ancient markers started glowing, and now half his council thinks I'm a threat, and you're his mate. Talia stands. Crosses to where Brielle sits and crouches down so they're eye level. Do you understand what that means? Not the biology or the prophecy. What it actually means. Brielle shakes her head. It means he would burn the whole pack down before he let anyone hurt you. It means you're not a political problem to be solved, you're the person his soul recognizes as home. And if Vex thinks he can use you as leverage, he's going to learn very painfully that threatening an alpha's mate is the fastest way to die. The fierce protectiveness in Talia's voice makes Brielle's eyes sting. I don't know how to be that important to someone. Then learn. Talia squeezes her shoulder. We'll help you. But first, you need to eat. Then we're going to work on your control. Because the best way to shut up the people who think you're dangerous is to prove you can handle your own power. They spend the morning in a room at the back of the house that Talia calls the training space. It's empty except for practice mats and a fireplace that's been specially designed with vents and heat-resistant materials. Fire Omegas need safe places to practice, Talia explains. This room can handle temperatures up to 2,000 degrees without structural damage. It's also shielded so your practice won't be felt by other wolves. Private. Safe. Have there been other Fire Omegas here? Brielle stands in the center of the room, feeling exposed and uncertain. Not in living memory. But my great-grandmother was an Earth Omega. She had this room built. Said that gifted Omegas need space to grow without fear of hurting others. The consideration makes Brielle's chest tight. Someone, generations ago, thought about people like her. Made space for them. All right. Talia settles on the mat. Close your eyes. Tell me what you feel. Brielle obeys. Stands in darkness and searches inside herself for the heat that's been building for months. It's there, stronger now, more present. A living thing coiled in her belly. Heat, she says. Pressure. Like something wants out but doesn't know how. Good. That's your power. Your gift. It's not separate from you, it's part of you. An expression of who you are at the deepest level. Talia's voice is calm. Grounding. Now, instead of pushing it down or fearing it, I want you to acknowledge it. Thank it for protecting you. For trying to surface even through years of suppression. Thank it. Your power is alive, Brielle. It has consciousness. Intelligence. And it's been trapped your entire life. Of course it's restless. Of course it wants out. But if you fight it, it will fight back. If you welcome it, it will learn to work with you. The concept is foreign. Wrong. But Brielle tries anyway. Reaches inside herself and touches that burning thing with gentleness instead of fear. Thank you, she thinks. For surviving. For waiting. For not giving up even when I didn't know you existed. The heat responds. Surges. Not painful, grateful. Like something that's been lonely finally being acknowledged. I feel it, she breathes. It's warm. Alive. Now bring it up slowly. Let it flow through you like water. Not forcing. Just allowing. Brielle focuses. Imagines the heat rising from her belly, up through her chest, down her arms. And slowly, so slowly, her hands begin to glow. Silver light. Soft at first, then strengthening. The same luminescence that came from the ancient markers. Perfect. Talia's voice is proud. Now hold it there. Get used to the feeling. This is you. Your truth. Nothing to fear. They practice for an hour. Brielle learning to call the light, to hold it, to release it without panic. Learning that her power responds to emotion, flares with anger, softens with calm, pulses with joy. By the time they stop, she's exhausted but exhilarated. The silver flame is hers. Not something foreign. Not something to fear. Just a part of her that's finally being given permission to exist. You're a natural, Talia says as they head back to the main house. Most gifted Omegas take days to achieve that level of control. You did it in an hour. Because I've been suppressing it for so long? Maybe it's just desperate to be used. Maybe. Or maybe you're exactly what the prophecy says, powerful beyond measure, just waiting for the right moment to burn. They enter the main hall to find it full of people. Not just pack members. Strangers. Men and women in formal clothing that suggests they've traveled from other territories. The air is thick with tension and the complicated scent hierarchies that Brielle is only beginning to understand. Silas stands at the center of the gathering, his face carved from stone. When he sees her, something flickers in his expression, relief followed immediately by concern. What's going on? Brielle asks quietly. Other alphas, Talia murmurs. Word spread faster than we thought. They've come to see the silver flame for themselves. A woman steps forward, tall, elegant, with dark skin and eyes that assess Brielle with predatory interest. So this is her. The Omega who woke the ancient markers. She circles Brielle slowly, like examining merchandise. Underwhelming, if I'm honest. I expected someone more impressive. Alpha Celeste. Silas's voice carries warning. Brielle is under my protection. I'd suggest you remember that before you say something we'll both regret. Protection. Celeste smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I stand, it looks like you're hoarding a valuable resource. A fire Omega, Silas. Do you understand how rare that is? How powerful? She could strengthen any pack she joins. Could tip the balance of power across all territories. She's not joining anyone's pack, Silas says flatly. She's mine. Not yet she isn't. A male voice joins the conversation, a stocky alpha with gray hair and shrewd eyes. She's unclaimed. Unbonded. Which means she's technically available for courtship by any unmated alpha who wants to make an offer. The words drop like stones. Brielle feels the eyes of every person in the hall turn toward her. Assessing. Calculating. Seeing not a woman, but an opportunity. She's not available. Silas moves to position himself between Brielle and the other alphas. I don't care what technicalities you want to cite. She's under my protection and will remain here until she decides otherwise. Decides. Celeste laughs. Silas, be reasonable. An unclaimed Fire Omega is too valuable to waste on delayed courtship. She should be bonded quickly. Properly. To an alpha strong enough to control her power and protect her from those who would use her as a weapon. I don't need to be controlled, Brielle says. Her voice shakes but holds. I'm not a thing to be traded or claimed or fought over. Of course not, darling. Celeste's smile is patronizing. But you're also an emerging Omega with unprecedented power. Without proper guidance, you could hurt people. Hurt yourself. Surely you understand that safeguards are necessary. The safeguard she needs is time. Talia steps forward. Time to learn control. Time to understand her gifts. Not to be rushed into a bond because a bunch of alphas are afraid of power they don't control. Afraid? The gray-haired alpha's eyes narrow. We're pragmatic. A Fire Omega hasn't been seen in 3 generations. The last one nearly destroyed 2 packs before she was brought under control. Forgive us for wanting to ensure this one is properly managed. Managed. Brielle feels the heat in her belly surge. You want to manage me like I'm a dangerous animal? You're dangerous. Counselor Vex's voice cuts through the crowd. He steps forward, and Brielle realizes with sinking clarity that this gathering wasn't coincidental. Vex called them here. Deliberately brought other alphas to undermine Silas's claim. You're an untrained, unstable element, and Alpha Thorn's attachment to you is clouding his judgment. My judgment is fine, Silas growls. What's clouded is your understanding of pack law. She's under my protection. On my lands. And that means no one here has any right to make claims or demands. Unless the council determines you're unfit to make that decision. Vex crosses his arms. Which is exactly what I'm proposing. You're compromised by your mate bond. Unable to see the threat she poses clearly. The council has a responsibility to override your authority when you're acting against pack interests. You're calling for a vote of no confidence? Silas's voice drops to something barely human. Dangerous. You want to challenge my authority as Alpha? I want to protect this pack. Vex doesn't back down. Even if that means protecting it from you. From your obsession with an Omega who could destroy us all. The hall erupts in murmurs. Pack members taking sides. Other Alphas watching with interest. Waiting to see if Silas will be weakened enough that they can move in. Brielle feels her control slipping. The heat building beyond what she learned this morning. Beyond what Talia taught her to manage. It rises like a tide, responding to her fear and anger and the overwhelming sense of being trapped by forces larger than herself. Her hands begin to glow. Not soft silver like in the training room. Bright. Burning. Hot enough that the people nearest her step back. Brielle. Silas's voice cuts through her panic. Look at me. She does. Finds his eyes. Sees not fear but steady certainty. You're all right, he says calmly. You're safe. No one here is going to hurt you. They want to take me away from you. Her voice breaks. Want to treat me like property. Then we'll fight them. Together. He holds out his hand. But first, you need to breathe. Need to pull the fire back before you hurt someone you don't mean to. She looks at her glowing hands. At the silver flames licking up her forearms. At the way the wooden floor beneath her feet is starting to char. I don't know how, she admits. It's too much. Too strong. Yes, you do. Talia appears beside her. Remember what we practiced. The power is yours. You control it. Not the other way around. But Talia's wrong. Right now, the power controls her. It surges and builds and demands release, and Brielle can feel herself losing the battle to contain it. Silas moves closer, deliberately stepping into range of the flames that could burn him. I trust you. Whatever happens, I trust you not to hurt me. Don't. She tries to pull back, but there's nowhere to go. Silas, I can't control it. I'll hurt you. No. He takes her burning hands in his. His skin should blister. Should char. But instead, something else happens. The flames recognize him. Recognize their mate. And they soften. Curl around his fingers instead of burning them. You won't. Because you're not a weapon, Brielle. You're a woman with a gift. And your gift knows the difference between threat and trust. The fire dims. Slowly. Reluctantly. But it dims. Brielle stares at their joined hands, her flames wrapping around his fingers in patterns that look almost like affection. Like her power is as drawn to him as she is. How, she starts. Mate bonds work both ways. His voice is soft enough that only she can hear. Your power recognizes me. Knows I'm safe. Knows I'd never hurt you. The silver flames fade completely. Leave her hands glowing faintly but no longer burning. And the hall is silent except for the ragged sound of her breathing. Elder Mirren steps forward. I think we've all seen enough. Her voice carries authority. The girl is learning control. Made progress in a single morning that most gifted Omegas take weeks to achieve. And she pulled back from the edge without causing harm. That's not instability. That's remarkable restraint. She nearly set the hall on fire, Vex argues. She was threatened by a room full of alphas treating her like property. Mirren's gaze sweeps the gathered crowd. I wonder how many of you would have shown such restraint under similar provocation. She turns to Silas. The council will discuss this in private. But my recommendation is that she stays under your protection. continues her training, and that we give her time before making any decisions about her future. The Council doesn't have the authority, Vex starts. The Council has exactly the authority Pack Law grants it. Mirren cuts him off. And right now, Pack Law says an alpha's mate is protected on his lands regardless of bonding status. Unless you want to formally challenge for Alpha Counselor, you have no grounds to remove her. Vex's jaw clenches. His eyes find Brielle's, and there's something in them that makes her blood run cold. Not just anger. Not just fear. Calculation. This isn't over, he says quietly. Then he turns and leaves, several pack members following him. The other alphas begin to disperse, disappointed that they won't get to make claims or negotiate trades. Within minutes, the hall empties until only Silas, Talia, Brielle, and Elder Mirren remain. That was a setup, Silas says grimly. Vex brought them here deliberately. Tried to force my hand. Yes. Mirren's expression is troubled. And he'll try again. More subtly next time. He's building support among the pack members who fear change, who see Brielle as a threat to stability. Then what do we do? Brielle asks. Her hands still shake from the adrenaline crash, from how close she came to losing control completely. Mirren studies her for a long moment. You prove them wrong. You show the pack that you're not a threat, you're an asset. Someone who can be trusted with power because you have the restraint to wield it responsibly. How? By continuing your training. By integrating into pack life. By showing people who you are instead of letting them imagine monsters. Mirren glances at Silas. And by bonding with your alpha. Officially. Soon. Because an unbonded mate is vulnerable in ways that will be exploited. I'm not ready, Brielle starts. Then get ready. Mirren's voice isn't unkind, but it's firm. Because Vex isn't going to wait for you to feel comfortable. He's going to keep pushing. Keep bringing pressure. Keep trying to separate you from Silas until he succeeds or until the bond is formalized and protected by every law we have. She leaves. The words hanging heavy in the air. Brielle looks at Silas. At Talia. At the two people who've been protecting her since this nightmare began. She's right, Silas says quietly. Vex is going to keep escalating. And every day you remain unbonded is another day he can claim I'm hoarding you for selfish reasons instead of making a proper commitment. So I have to choose between my autonomy and your political stability? Bitterness edges into her voice. That's the choice? Rush into a permanent bond I'm not ready for or watch you lose everything because of me? No. He steps closer. Takes her hands again, normal now, no longer burning. The choice is yours. Always yours. But I won't lie to you about the consequences. Vex is dangerous. He wants power. And he's figured out that you're both my greatest strength and my greatest vulnerability. Brielle pulls away. Wraps her arms around herself. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Being the reason someone I care about gets hurt. Being the problem that needs to be solved. You're not a problem. Talia's voice is fierce. Vex is the problem. The system that treats omegas like bargaining chips is the problem. You're just a woman trying to survive impossible circumstances. A woman with power people want to control. Brielle's eyes burn. A woman who's causing a rift in your pack just by existing. Maybe everyone would be better off if I just left. Went somewhere far away where I can't hurt anyone. No. Silas's voice cracks like a whip. Don't even think it. You leave, and you're alone. Vulnerable. Every alpha who wants to claim a fire omega will hunt you. You stay here, and you have protection. Training. People who will fight for you. People who will lose their positions fighting for me. Then let them. He moves into her space. Forces her to look at him. Let me. Because you're worth it, Brielle. Worth every political battle. Worth every challenge. Worth everything. She wants to believe him. Wants to lean into the certainty he's offering. But all she can see is the trap closing around her, forced to bond before she's ready or watch everyone who's been kind to her pay the price. I need to think, she whispers. Need time alone to process all of this. He nods. Doesn't fight her. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. She flees to her room, locks the door, stands at the window staring out at the woods and tries to figure out how she went from fired and forgotten to being the center of a political battle that could destroy the only people who've shown her kindness. Her phone, the one Silas gave her, sits on the nightstand. She picks it up, scrolls through messages from him. Gentle check-ins. Reminders that he's thinking of her. Evidence of someone who cares. But is care enough? Is protection enough? When the price of both might be his downfall. She doesn't have answers. Just fear and confusion and the terrible weight of power she never asked for. Outside, the winter sun sets early. Darkness comes. And with it, a choice that will change everything. Bond with Silas and lose her autonomy, but gain protection. Or refuse and watch him be destroyed for choosing her. Both options feel like betrayal. Both options feel like the end of something before it could properly begin. And somewhere in the house, Silas waits. Hoping she'll choose him. Knowing she might not. Loving her anyway. The silver flame inside her burns. And Brielle stands at the window, watching darkness fall, and prepares to make the hardest choice of her life. The decision comes to her at 3 a.m. Brielle has been lying in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, watching shadows move across plaster. Sleep is impossible. Her mind won't stop circling, Vex's calculating eyes, the other alphas assessing her like merchandise, Silas's face when she pulled away from him. The mate bond tugs at her chest. She can feel him across the hall, awake like she is. Probably sitting in that chair, probably watching his door in case she calls. Probably aching the way she's aching with the distance between them. She could go to him. Could cross the hallway and let herself be held. Could accept the bond and let everything else fall into place around that one certainty. But that's not the choice that crystallizes in the dark hours before dawn. The choice that comes to her is harder. Braver. More terrifying than anything she's ever considered. She's not going to bond with Silas because Vex demands it. She's not going to let political pressure force her into a permanent commitment before she's ready. But she's also not going to run. Not going to let fear make her small again. Not going to hide from power just because other people are frightened of it. She's going to stand. She's going to fight. She's going to show Vex and the Council and every alpha who thinks she's a commodity that she belongs to no one but herself. And if that means burning down every expectation they have about what an Omega should be, then she'll burn it all. The silver flame inside her responds to the decision. Surges with approval. Like it's been waiting for her to stop running and start claiming her own power. She rises. Dresses in the clothes Talia left, dark jeans, boots, a sweater that won't catch fire if her control slips. Braids her hair back from her face. Looks at herself in the mirror and sees something different than the woman who got fired on Christmas Eve. This woman has silver in her eyes. Fire in her veins. Destiny written in her bones whether she wants it or not. This woman is done being convenient. She crosses the hall. Knocks softly on Silas's door. He opens it immediately. Like he was waiting. Like he's been waiting all night. Brielle. Relief and concern wore in his expression. Are you all right? No. She steps into his room uninvited. But I'm done letting that stop me. I need you to call an emergency council meeting. Tonight. Now. Before dawn. He studies her face. What are you planning? To give them what they want. A demonstration of what I'm capable of. Her hands clench into fists. They think I'm unstable? Dangerous? Too powerful to be allowed freedom? Fine. Let them see exactly what they're afraid of. Let them understand that trying to control me will be the biggest mistake they ever make. Brielle. His voice drops to something careful. Worried. You don't have to prove anything to them. Don't have to perform your power like a trained animal. I'm not doing it for them. She meets his eyes. I'm doing it for me. Because I'm tired of being scared. Tired of apologizing for existing. Tired of letting other people decide what I'm worth. If I'm going to be the silver flame, if I'm going to be this prophesied thing they all fear, then I'm going to be it on my terms. Unbowed, unclaimed, uncontrollable. Something fierce and proud blazes in his expression. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He nods once. Then I'll call the meeting. But Brielle? Whatever happens in there, whatever you do or say, I'm with you. Even if you burn the whole council chamber down. I'm not going to burn anything. She allows herself a small, dangerous smile. Unless they give me a reason to. The council chamber is in the basement of the pack house, a large room with stone walls and a long wooden table surrounded by chairs. It's meant to be neutral territory. A place where decisions are made collectively rather than by alpha authority alone. By the time Brielle and Silas arrive, most of the council is already assembled. Elder Mirren looks alert despite the hour. Vex looks angry at being summoned. The others range from curious to annoyed. This better be important, Alpha. Vex doesn't bother hiding his irritation. Some of us were actually sleeping. It's important. Silas takes his position at the head of the table, but doesn't sit. Brielle has requested this meeting. She has something to say to the council. All eyes turn to her. Assessing. Judging. Some sympathetic. Most skeptical. Brielle stands at the opposite end of the table. Doesn't sit. Doesn't lower herself to their level. Stands tall and lets them look. Yesterday, she begins, her voice steady. You all made it very clear what you think of me. That I'm dangerous. Unstable. A threat to pack security. That I need to be controlled, managed, or removed before I hurt someone. That's not Elder Mirren starts. Let me finish. Brielle's tone leaves no room for interruption. You're right that I'm powerful. Right that I'm still learning control. Right that I could potentially hurt people if I lost control completely. She pauses. But what you're wrong about is thinking that controlling me is the solution. That forcing me into a bond before I'm ready, or sending me away, or treating me like a weapon that needs to be locked up for everyone's safety, that any of those things will make you safer. Then what will? Vex leans forward. Because forgive me for not feeling particularly reassured by an unclaimed Omega with fire at her fingertips telling us we have nothing to worry about. What will make you safer is treating me like a person instead of a problem. Her hands start to glow. Not out of control. Deliberately. She's calling the fire on purpose. What will make you safer is understanding that I have a choice in what I become. And you can either support that choice, help me learn and grow into my power responsibly, or you can try to force my hand. And if you force me, if you try to take away my autonomy or pressure me into decisions I'm not ready for, then yes, I will burn. Not because I'm unstable, but because I refuse to be caged. The glow intensifies. Silver flames lick up her arms, bright enough to cast shadows in the stone chamber. Several council members push back from the table. Vex stands, hand moving towards something at his belt, probably a weapon. Silas tenses, ready to intervene. But Elder Mirren just watches. Calm. Waiting. What exactly are you proposing? Mirren asks. I want time. Brielle lets the flames dance higher, showing them she can call the fire. Hold it. Control it without burning anything she doesn't mean to. 3 months. 3 months to train with Talia and learn proper control. 3 months to integrate into the pack. Let people see me as something other than a threat. 3 months to prove I can be trusted with my own power. And if you can't? Vex challenges. If 3 months pass and you're still unstable, what then? Then you can revisit whether I'm too dangerous to stay. She meets his eyes. But I'll tell you right now, if you try to force me out before I've had a fair chance, if you try to manipulate Silas into sending me away or pressure me into a bond I'm not ready for, I won't go quietly. I'll fight. And everyone in this room knows I have the power to make that fight costly. Is that a threat? Vex's voice goes cold. It's a promise. The flames surge higher. The temperature in the room climbs. I'm done being treated like I have no say in my own fate. Done being talked about instead of talked to. Done apologizing for being what you're all so afraid of. You want to see the silver flame? You're looking at her. And she's not going to be controlled. Not by you. Not by anyone. The fire roars up, fills the space between her and the ceiling. Bright. Hot. Powerful. For a moment, it looks like she's lost control, like the flames are going to consume her, consume the room, prove Vex right about every fear he's voiced. Then she closes her fists. And the fire vanishes. Completely. Instantly. Like it was never there. The chamber is silent. No one moves. No one breathes. Brielle stands in the sudden darkness, her hands still glowing faintly, and lets them see what control actually looks like. 3 months, she repeats quietly. That's all I'm asking. A fair chance to prove I'm not the threat you think I am. And in return, I promise to work with Talia, to learn everything I can about my gifts, to be transparent about my progress. But I will not be rushed into bonding. I will not be treated like property. And I will not be removed from this pack unless I choose to leave. Elder Mirren is the first to speak. I find those terms acceptable. She looks around the table. Brielle has just demonstrated more control than most of us expected. She called power significant enough to destroy this room, held it, and released it without harming anyone. That suggests she's capable of exactly the kind of restraint we need. She's still unbonded, Vex argues. Still vulnerable to other alphas making claims. Then perhaps we should focus on making those claims illegal rather than forcing Brielle into a bond she's not ready for. Mirren's voice carries steel. Pack law needs updating. We've been treating Omegas like commodities for too long. Maybe the silver flame is here to teach us that needs to change. Murmurs around the table. Some agreement. Some resistance. The pack is divided, just like Talia said. But the tide has shifted. Brielle can feel it. By demonstrating power and control simultaneously, by refusing to be cowed and refusing to be reckless, she's forced them to see her differently. I propose a vote. Another elder, the kind-eyed older man from yesterday, speaks up. 3 months of protected training for Brielle. During that time, she remains under Alpha Thorn's protection but unbonded. No other alphas are permitted to make claims. The council monitors her progress and reconvenes at the end of the period to assess whether she's integrated successfully. All in favor. Mirren's hand goes up immediately. The kind elder. 3 others after some hesitation. 5 out of 9. A majority. Opposed? The elder asks. Vex's hand. 3 others who've been allied with him. For opposed. The motion passes. Silas speaks for the first time since Brielle started talking. His voice carries alpha authority, making it official. Brielle will remain on pack lands under my protection for 3 months of training. At the end of that period, the council will reconvene to assess the situation. During this time, any attempt to remove her or force her into bonding against her shall be considered an act of challenge against my alpha authority. The warning is clear. Touch her and you challenge me. Vex stands abruptly. This is a mistake. You're letting emotion cloud your judgment, Alpha. And when she burns us all, when the prophecy fulfills itself in destruction instead of unity, I want it on record that I warned you. He leaves. His supporters follow. The remaining council members disperse more slowly. Some offer nods to Brielle, not quite approval, but acknowledgement. Others just leave without comment. Soon, only Brielle, Silas, and Elder Mirren remain. That was impressive, Mirren says, studying Brielle with new interest. And foolish. You made yourself a target tonight. Showed everyone exactly how powerful you are. Vex will use that against you. Will work to turn pack sentiment against you before your 3 months are up. Let him try. Brielle's hands have stopped glowing, but she can still feel the fire inside her. Ready. Waiting. I'm not going to hide anymore. Not going to pretend to be less than I am just to make other people comfortable. Good. Mirren's smile is approving. The silver flame was never meant to be comfortable. She was meant to change things. to burn away the old, corrupt systems and force us to build something better. She pauses at the door. But child, changing systems is dangerous work. People who benefit from the status quo will fight to protect it. Be careful. Be smart. And remember that power without wisdom is just destruction wearing a different name. She leaves. Brielle sags against the table. The adrenaline that's been carrying her crashes, and suddenly she's exhausted. Shaking. The weight of what she just did settling onto her shoulders. Silas is there immediately, supporting her. Not pulling her into his arms, giving her space to stand on her own, but staying close enough to catch her if she falls. You are magnificent, he says quietly. Terrifying and magnificent, and so brave I could barely breathe watching you. I threatened your council. Her voice shakes. Challenged their authority. Probably made things 10 times worse. You stood up for yourself. Refused to be controlled. Force them to see you as a person instead of a problem. His hand finds hers. Steady. Grounding. That's not making things worse. That's making them different. Better. Vex is going to come after me now. After us. Yes. No point in denying it. But we have 3 months. 3 months to train you. To build support. To show the pack that you're valuable, not dangerous. We'll use that time well. She looks up at him, at this man who's stood beside her through every impossible moment, who's offered her protection without demanding payment, who's loved her before she knew how to love herself. I'm still not ready to bond, she whispers. Even after tonight. Even knowing Vex is going to keep pushing. I need my 3 months. Then take them. His thumb traces circles on her palm. I'm not going anywhere. 3 months or 3 years or 3 decades, I'll wait. Because you're worth waiting for. The simple certainty in his voice breaks something open in her chest. She steps into a space. Lets herself be held. Rests her forehead against his chest and feels his heartbeat strong and steady beneath her ear. Thank you, she breathes. For believing in me. For not pushing. For letting me figure this out on my own terms. Always. His arms wrap around her carefully. Like she's precious. Like she's chosen. You never have to thank me for treating you the way you deserve to be treated. They stand like that for a long time. Drawing strength from each other. 2 people against the world, bound by something deeper than pack law or prophecy. Eventually, they separate. Walk back upstairs as dawn breaks over the horizon. The house is quiet. The pack asleep except for the guards who patrol the perimeter. At her door, Brielle pauses. Will you tell me something? Anything. What happens if I fail? If 3 months from now I'm not in perfect control and the council decides I'm too dangerous? He's silent for a moment. Then we leave. Together. Find somewhere remote where you can continue learning without pressure. Where you can be yourself without fear. You give up your pack? Your position? Everything you've built. For you. His eyes meet hers. Without hesitation. You're my mate, Brielle. My home. The pack is important, but you're essential. If it comes down to choosing between them and you, I choose you every time. The words wrap around her like a promise. Like safety. Like the future she's been afraid to imagine. I won't let it come to that, she says. I'll learn control. I'll prove them wrong. I'll become someone they can trust instead of fear. I know you will. He touches her face gently. But even if you don't, even if control takes longer than 3 months, you're not failing. You're just learning. And we'll figure it out together. She sleeps deeply that morning. Dreams of fire that doesn't burn. Of standing in front of the council with flames at her fingertips and fear in her heart, but refusing to back down. Of becoming someone she never imagined she could be. When she wakes, it's afternoon. Sunlight streams through the window. And Talia is sitting in the chair by the fireplace, reading a book and waiting patiently for her to wake. Good morning, sleeping beauty. Talia smiles. Or afternoon, I suppose. You've been out for 8 hours. Figured you needed it after that performance last night. You heard about it? Brielle sits up, pushing hair out of her face. Everyone heard about it. You're the talk of the pack. Talia sets down her book. Opinion is mixed. Some people think you're brave. Some think you're dangerous. Most are just confused and waiting to see what happens next. What do you think? I think you're exactly what this pack needs. Someone who refuses to be controlled. Who forces us to question the old ways. Talia crosses to sit on the edge of the bed. But I also think you're in danger. Vex isn't going to let this go. He's already talking to his supporters. Building a case that you're too unstable to be allowed freedom. Let him. Brielle's jaw sets. I have 3 months to prove otherwise. I'm not going to waste them being afraid. Good. Because we start training in earnest today. Talia stands, all business now. Not just fire control. Combat. Strategy. Politics. Everything you need to survive in a world that's going to keep trying to tear you down. Combat. You're powerful, but power means nothing if someone gets close enough to hurt you before you can use it. Talia's expression is serious. Vex is dangerous in ways that have nothing to do with alpha strength. He's smart, manipulative, patient. If he can't beat you with politics, he'll try something else. You need to be ready for everything. Fear flickers through Brielle, but she pushes it down. Lets the silver flame inside her burn hotter. Then teach me, she says. Teach me everything. Because I'm not going to be anyone's victim ever again. They train for hours. Fire control in the safe room. Hand-to-hand combat in the gym. Strategy sessions with Talia explaining pack politics and alliance structures. How to read people. How to identify threats. How to protect herself in a world that sees her as either a prize or a problem. By evening, Brielle is exhausted but stronger. More prepared. Beginning to understand what it means to claim her power instead of just holding it. Dinner is in the formal dining room, her first meal with the whole pack. She sits beside Silas at the long table, acutely aware of the eyes watching her. Judging her. Trying to decide if she's dangerous or valuable. She keeps her head high. Engages in polite conversation. Shows them she can be civilized. Normal. Not the unstable force they fear. But under the table, Silas's hand finds hers. Steady. Grounding. A reminder that she's not performing alone. After dinner, as people disperse, a younger pack member approaches. A woman maybe Brielle's age with kind eyes and nervous energy. I just wanted to say, the woman starts hesitantly, that what you did last night? Standing up to the council? It was incredible. I've never seen anyone refuse to be controlled like that. You gave me hope that maybe things can change. That maybe Omegas don't have to accept whatever we're given. The words hit Brielle hard. She hadn't thought about what her refusal might mean to others. Hadn't considered that standing up for herself might inspire others to do the same. Thank you, she manages. That means more than you know. The woman smiles and leaves. And Brielle realizes that this inspiring change, showing others that resistance is possible, might be more important than prophecy or power. That night, she stands at her window and watches the moon rise over the woods. 3 months stretches before her. 3 months to learn control. To prove herself. To become someone worthy of the power burning inside her. But she's not afraid anymore. She's ready. Ready to burn away the old ways. Ready to forge herself into something new. Ready to show everyone who's ever doubted her that the silver flame doesn't destroy. It transforms. And transformation is exactly what this pack needs. 3 months pass like fire through dry timber, fast, consuming, transformative. Brielle learns control that goes beyond holding flames. She learns to dance with her power. To weave fire into intricate patterns. To burn hot enough to melt steel, or soft enough to warm without scorching. Talia teaches her shields, mental, emotional, physical. How to protect herself from attacks that have nothing to do with violence and everything to do with manipulation. She learns combat from Marcus, who turns out to be more than just a driver. He's a retired pack warrior, and he teaches her that power means nothing if you can't defend yourself when someone gets past your flames. She learns dirty fighting, strategic retreats, how to read body language and anticipate attacks. She learns politics from Elder Mirren, who takes her under her wing like the grandmother Brielle never had. Teaches her how to read pack dynamics, how to build alliances, how to speak in council without showing fear or weakness. And slowly, grudgingly, the pack begins to accept her. Not everyone. Vex and his supporters remain hostile, watching for any sign of instability they can exploit. But others start to see her differently. The young Omega who thanked her that first night brings friends. They ask questions. Want to know how she learned to refuse. How she found the courage to stand. Brielle starts teaching them. Small sessions in the training room where she shows other Omegas that their gifts, empathy, healing, connection are powers too. That they don't have to accept being treated as lesser. That they can demand respect and autonomy and still be valued members of the pack. It's a quiet revolution, but it's happening. And Silas watches it all with pride and terror in equal measure. Pride in what she's becoming. Terror at the target it paints on her back. Because Vex is plotting. Brielle can feel it. Can see it in the way he watches her during council meetings. Can sense it in the whispered conversations that stop when she enters rooms. He's waiting for her to fail. Waiting for the moment when her control slips so he can say, "I told you so," and demand her removal. But she doesn't slip. Doesn't give him the satisfaction. The mate bond between her and Silas deepens even without formalization. They spend evenings together by the fire. Share meals. Talk about futures that might include bonding when she's ready. He never pushes. Never demands. Just loves her patiently while she learns to love herself. On the 89th night, one day before her 3 months are up, Brielle stands in the training room alone. The moonlight streams through high windows. Her hands glow silver as she practices one last time. The fire responds to her thoughts now. Her emotions. Her intentions. It's not separate from her anymore. It's an extension of who she is. She thinks about the woman she was 3 months ago. Fired on Christmas Eve. Alone in a cold apartment. Convinced she was disposable. That woman is gone. Burned away in the forge of her own awakening. The woman standing here now knows her worth. Knows her power. Knows that she was never disposable. She was hidden, protected, saved for the moment when the world needed her to burn. Tomorrow the council reconvenes. Tomorrow they'll assess whether she's safe enough to stay. Tomorrow Vex will make his final play. But tonight, Brielle stands in silver light and knows something absolutely. She's not going anywhere. Not unless she chooses to. Not unless every person who tries to remove her is willing to burn trying. The door opens. Silas enters, drawn by instinct or the bond or just knowing she'd be here. Tomorrow, he says simply. Tomorrow, she agrees. Are you ready? She turns to face him. Lets him see the power in her eyes. The certainty in her stance. The woman she's become. I've been ready, she says. The question is whether they're ready for me. He crosses the room. Takes her glowing hands in his. The fire recognizes him, curls around his fingers affectionately. 3 months of proximity has taught her power that he's safe. That he's home. Whatever happens, he says quietly, you're not alone in that room. I'm with you. Talia is with you. Mirren is with you. And every person you've inspired these past 3 months will be standing behind you even if they're not physically present. And if Vex has enough votes? If they decide I'm still too dangerous, then we leave. Just like I promised. And we build something new somewhere else. His eyes hold hers. But I don't think it will come to that. I think you're going to walk into that council chamber tomorrow and show them exactly why the prophecy chose you. Why the silver flame had to be you and no one else. She wants to kiss him. Wants to close the distance and taste the certainty in his words. Wants to give in to the bond that's been pulling at her for 3 months. But not yet. Not until tomorrow is done. Not until she's proven that she can stand alone before she lets herself fall into standing together. Thank you, she whispers instead. For everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For protecting me when I was vulnerable. For loving me before I knew how to love myself. Always. The word is promise and prayer. I told you that first night, you were never disposable. You were always mine. And tomorrow you're going to make sure everyone else knows it too. The council chamber the next morning is packed. Not just the 9 council members. The whole pack has been allowed to attend. They line the walls, fill every available space, all of them waiting to see what happens when the silver flame faces her final judgment. Brielle walks in with her head high. Wears clothes Talia helped her choose, strong colors, confident cut, nothing that suggests she's asking for approval. Her hair is down, silver strands catching the light in ways that didn't happen 3 months ago. Physical proof of her power manifesting fully. She takes her position at the end of the table. Doesn't sit. Stands like she did that first night, but this time there's no fear. No uncertainty. Just absolute clarity about who she is and what she's worth. Vex speaks first. Of course he does. 3 months ago, this council gave Brielle 3 months to prove she could control her power. To integrate into the pack safely. To demonstrate that she's not the threat many of us feared. He pauses, looking around the room. I think we all need to ask ourselves, has she succeeded? Yes. Elder Mirren doesn't wait for others to speak. She's demonstrated control beyond what any of us expected. She's trained other Omegas. She's contributed to pack life. She's been transparent about her progress. By every measure we set, she's succeeded. Has she? Vex's smile is cold. Or has she simply been on her best behavior? Waiting for acceptance before showing her true nature. He turns to Brielle. Tell me something. If the council votes to extend your stay permanently, if we give you full pack membership, what happens when you get angry? When you lose control? When that fire you've been carefully banking decides it wants to burn? The question is designed to trap her. To make her defensive. To suggest that control is temporary and danger is inevitable. Brielle meets his eyes calmly. What happens when any pack member loses control, counselor? We have protocols. Support systems. Methods of de-escalation. My power doesn't make me more dangerous than an alpha who loses his temper or a warrior who forgets restraint. It just makes me different. Different enough to destroy the entire pack if something goes wrong. And an alpha strong enough to tear apart anyone who challenges him. Yet we don't lock them up out of fear they might lose control one day. She keeps her voice level. Reasonable. You're holding me to a different standard because my power frightens you. Because it's something you haven't seen before and don't know how to categorize. But that's your fear, counselor. Not my instability. Murmurs ripple through the watching pack. Some approving. Some uncertain. I propose a test, Vex says suddenly. Right here. Right now. Let's see how stable her control really is when she's under pressure. What kind of test? Silas's voice carries warning. Simple. She demonstrates her power. Shows us what she's capable of. And we see if she can hold it when provoked. Vex's eyes gleam. Unless she's afraid her control isn't as solid as she claims? It's a trap. Brielle knows it. He's going to try to make her lose control. To prove she's dangerous. To give the council the excuse they need to vote her out. But refusing the test will look like weakness. Like she knows her control is fragile. I'll do it, she says before Silas can object. On one condition. What condition? After this demonstration, the council votes. Publicly. No secret ballots, no private discussions. Everyone here sees who stands with me and who stands against me. Because I'm done with backroom politics and hidden agendas. If you want me gone, counselor, then say it openly. Let the pack see exactly who you are. Vex's jaw tightens. But he can't refuse without looking cowardly himself. Agreed. The pack members create space. A clear area in the center of the chamber where Brielle can work. She takes a deep breath. Centers herself. Feels Silas's presence behind her, not interfering, but there. Solid. Supporting without smothering. What would you like to see? She asks Vex calmly. Show us your power. All of it. Hold nothing back. She nods, closes her eyes, reaches deep inside herself where the silver flame burns eternal. And she calls it. The fire rises from her hands, her arms, wraps around her entire body in a column of silver flame that reaches toward the ceiling. The temperature spikes. People step back, hands raised to shield their faces. But Brielle stands at the center of the inferno, calm and controlled. The fire doesn't burn her, doesn't consume her. She is the flame and the flame is her, and they move together in perfect harmony. She opens her eyes, looks at Vex through the fire. Is this what you wanted to see? The monster you've been warning everyone about? Then she begins to shape the flames, weaves them into intricate patterns, flowers and birds and wolves made of living fire that move and dance through the air. Beautiful instead of destructive. Creative instead of chaotic. The watching pack gasps. Even the council members lean forward, captivated by the display. My power, Brielle says clearly, her voice carrying despite the roar of flames, is only as dangerous as the fear you bring to it. You see destruction because that's what you expect. But I am not your fear. I am not your nightmare. I am simply a woman with a gift, trying to find her place in a world that wants to control her. She draws the fire back. Slowly, deliberately. Pulls it down from the ceiling, back from the walls, away from the frightened faces. Calls it back into herself until her hands glow softly and nothing else burns. Complete control. Perfect demonstration. Vex's face is carved from stone. Now for the real test. He moves before anyone can stop him. Crosses the space between them and backhands Brielle across the face. The crack echoes in the chamber. Her head snaps to the side. Blood wells from her split lip. Silas roars. Starts to lunge forward. But Brielle's hand shoots out. Stops him. Holds him back with nothing but a look and the absolute certainty in her eyes that she can handle this. The fire inside her surges. Wants to retaliate. Wants to burn Vex for the disrespect, the violence, the challenge. The entire pack holds its breath, waiting to see if she'll lose control. If violence will beget violence. If Vex was right all along about her instability. Brielle turns back to face him. Wipes the blood from her lip with the back of her hand. And when she speaks, her voice is steady. Cold. Utterly in command. Is that really the best you can do, counselor? The flames don't rise. Don't consume. Don't retaliate. She holds her power perfectly still while blood drips from her chin and her cheek throbs where he struck her. Proving control in the moment when every instinct screams for violence. Proving that she's stronger than her fear, her anger, her power. Elder Mirren stands abruptly. That's enough. Counselor Vex, you are out of line. Striking her was necessary to test her stability. Vex doesn't look away from Brielle. And she passed. I admit it. She held control when provoked. She's not unstable. Something in his tone makes Brielle's skin prickle. He's conceding too easily. This isn't surrender. But that doesn't change the fundamental problem, Vex continues. She's too powerful. Too different. And most importantly, she's in bonded. An unclaimed Omega with that level of power is still a liability. Not because she'll lose control, but because others will try to claim her. Will use her as a weapon against us. Then the solution is simple. Talia's voice cuts through the tension. We change pack law. Make forced claiming illegal. Make it clear that any alpha who tries to bond an Omega without consent faces exile or death. That's radical, someone starts. So is a fire Omega. Talia doesn't back down. Brielle is right, we've been treating Omegas as property for too long. It's time that changed. And if the silver flame is here to force that change, then maybe that's exactly what we need. The council erupts in argument. Some supporting Talia's proposal. Some resisting. The pack divided down lines that have been forming for 3 months. Brielle watches it all. Sees the system beginning to crack. Sees change happening whether people want it or not. And she realizes something profound. This was never about her proving she could control her power. It was about her proving she could change the world. The prophecy didn't say the silver flame would unite or destroy. It said she would burn away corruption, would force transformation. And watching the pack argue about Omega rights, watching the old guard clash with those who want something better, she understands that the burning has already begun. Enough. Silas's voice carries alpha authority. Silences the room. We vote. As Brielle requested. Publicly. The question is simple. Does she stay as a full pack member with all rights and protections, or does she go? One by one, the council members stand and declare their vote. Elder Mirren, she stays. The kind elder, she stays. 3 more in favor. Then Vex and his supporters, she goes. She goes. She goes. It comes down to the final vote. A woman Brielle has barely spoken to. Someone who's been quiet through all the debates. The woman stands. Looks at Brielle for a long moment. 3 months ago, I would have voted for her to go. Would have said the risk was too great. But I've watched her these past months. Watched her train others. Watched her stand tall when others tried to tear her down. Watched her hold control when provoked to violence. The woman pauses. She's not the threat, counselors. We are. Our fear. Our resistance to change. Our insistence on controlling everything we don't understand. So my vote is that she stays. And that we start becoming the pack that deserves someone like her. The chamber explodes in sound. Some cheering. Some shouting in protest. But it doesn't matter. 6-3. She won. Brielle closes her eyes. Feels tears threaten, but doesn't let them fall. Not yet. Not in front of people who are still deciding whether she's strong enough. Silas is there immediately. His hand on her back. His presence solid and real. You did it, he murmurs. You won. No. She opens her eyes. Looks at the pack, divided, arguing, beginning the hard work of change. We all won. Because now the real work begins. The celebration that night is subdued. Not everyone is happy with the vote. Vex and his supporters boycott entirely. But those who supported her gather in the main hall, and there's food and drink and cautious optimism. Brielle moves through the crowd in a daze. Accepting congratulations. Answering questions. Trying to process that this is real, she has a home now. A pack. A place where she belongs. Later, much later, when most people have gone to bed, she stands outside on the terrace. The winter air is cold, but she barely feels it. The fire inside her keeps her warm. Silas finds her there. Joins her at the railing without speaking. Just stands beside her, looking out at the snow-covered woods. You know Vex isn't done, he finally says. He'll keep fighting. Keep trying to turn people against you. I know. She doesn't look away from the trees. But I'm not scared anymore. I know who I am. I know what I'm worth. And I know that change is worth fighting for even when it's hard. What happens now? His voice is soft. Careful. You've proven yourself to the pack. You have 3 months of control under your belt. Is it time to talk about bonding? Or do you need more time? She finally turns to face him. This man who's been patient for 3 months. Who's loved her without demanding anything in return. Who's stood beside her through every impossible moment. I need you to understand something, she says carefully. I'm ready to bond with you. Not because the pack voted in my favor. Not because it's politically convenient. Not because Vex might keep attacking and formal bonding offers protection. She takes his hands. Feels the rightness of the connection. I'm ready because I love you. Because these past 3 months have shown me what it means to be chosen. To be valued. To be loved not for what I can provide but for who I am. Her voice breaks slightly. Because you're my home, Silas. You always have been. From that first night when you knocked on my door at midnight, I've been yours. I just needed time to become mine first. He makes a sound half laugh, half sob. Pulls her into his arms and holds her like she's the answer to every prayer he's ever spoken. Yes, he breathes against her hair. Yes, we'll bond. Tomorrow. Tonight. Whenever you want. However you want. Just yes. She laughs. Really laughs. Free and unburdened and full of joy. Tomorrow, she decides. Let's do it properly. With witnesses and ceremony. Let the pack see that this is real. That we choose each other. Tomorrow then. He pulls back just enough to see her face. My mate. My silver flame. My Brielle. She rises on her toes. Closes the distance. Kisses him like she's been wanting to for 3 months. The bond between them flares. Recognizes. Rejoices. And tomorrow they'll make it official. But tonight, standing under winter stars with fire in her veins and love in her heart, Brielle knows she's already home. The woman who was fired on Christmas Eve is gone forever. The woman standing here now is the silver flame, the prophesied Omega, the one who will burn away corruption and forge something new. But more importantly, she's Brielle, a woman who learned her worth, who claimed her power, who refused to be convenient or controlled or caged. And tomorrow, when she bonds with her mate, it won't be because she has to. It will be because she chooses to. Because some flames burn not to destroy, but to light the way home. Would you have chosen her side? Would you have voted for the woman with fire in her hands and revolution in her heart? Or would fear have made you say no? This is the question the silver flame asks of everyone she meets. Will you choose courage or control? Transformation or tradition? Love or fear? If this story lit something inside you, if Brielle's journey from disposable to unstoppable made your heart beat faster, then subscribe to Cindy's Wolfheart Stories. Because here, we tell tales that burn. Stories of women who refuse to be small. Of men who love without controlling. Of power claimed and destinies rewritten. We tell stories about becoming who you were always meant to be. Even when the world tries to keep you hidden. Even when the cost is everything. Even when the only way forward is through fire. Subscribe. Join the pack. Let's burn together.